starting in December, participation in the draft will be automatic, meaning that if you're between 18 to 24 in America and you're male, you'll be automatically put into the draft system.
From when?
I think from December.
This year?
Yes, that is correct, yes.
So between the age of 18 and 25, you think, and what does that really mean? Well, I've not really experienced that in my lifetime. So it means that if you're between the age of 18 and 24, either gender?
No, male.
Male, then you have to sign up for the army.
No, you already put into a draft.
Oh, you're already, okay, but you might be called upon.
That's right.
President Trump has ordered the Pentagon, the Selective Service, to put out bids and has given them 3 weeks for AI companies, big tech, to have a plan to implement the draft. Yes, it's the law of you're a man. When you hit 16 to get a driver's license, you're supposed to register for it. But now it's for everybody, and you cannot opt out of it. And they have it set now to basically implement the draft and then have you called up with your draft number. And they're going to say that, oh, well, we're not sure we're going to do it, but we're going to have it primed and ready. But have you already drafted and ready to be called up off your smartphone? And you saw the neocon that Israel installed in Kentucky. We played his speeches a few months ago, where he said, sure, we can call up the draft basically any time, but we need to go ahead and implement the draft now and have everybody through basic training and then be on standby, because we've got to have a full war in the Middle East.
If you figure, okay, well, we got to start selective service, we got to get them through all the in-processing, boot camp, trainings, you're talking months downstream. Do we really have that time anymore?
No.
Is that a deeply flawed concept? And so what would really happen if we had to go from what I call a cold start of a pending, world war? How fast and what would really happen if we had to re-implement selective service, i.e. the draft, train, equip, and prepare to deploy those forces? I'm not sure we have that kind of time anymore.
And it's going to take at least 500,000 troops. And we have Mark Levin, who is the mouthpiece of Netanyahu and Trump's brain. We have a clip of him saying that Trump sent in 400,000 troops into Iraq and that it took 40-something minutes, and that Iran will take 50-something minutes.
The Iranians have been at war with us for over 4 decades. But if we wanted to go to war, we know how to go to war. George W. Bush showed us. You send 400,000 troops in, and you defeat Iraq in about 43 minutes. We can do the same with Iran. Maybe it'd take 54 minutes.
Trump last year got legislation passed to make the selective service mandatory and to raise the age of conscription to 42 from 35. It also makes it the law that computers will automatically register you into the draft when you get a driver's license or when you turn 18, whichever one happens first. They published on the Federal Register, under orders from President Trump via the Pentagon and Selective Service, vendors that have been given less than a 3-week window, AI companies, to compete for the contract to implement those provisions of the law and to prepare for national conscription for the full invasion, ground invasion of Iran. The other big component is we're not going to be indentured servants to Israel and to the globalists for this insane war. The Pentagon has told Trump, do not launch this war, that the mullahs wouldn't fall. They have said a ground invasion will be the biggest bloodbath ever, will make Vietnam look like a walk in the park. This is beyond a disaster. Graham on the phone days in saying he believed they would fall in days or weeks guaranteed, which we've been told he told Trump and so did Netanyahu from information leaked to Axios. Now it's all confirmed. They were wrong. We were right. They ignored the Pentagon.
What we're trying to do is just get a few cities to fall in the next month, get the Arabs more openly involved tomorrow or by the end of the week, and just have almost irreversible momentum.
So we're about to have a national draft implemented for total war and expansion of the new world war we're in a proxy war with Russia, China, through Ukraine and Iran. And now it's not as the Ukrainians as a proxy for NATO and the U.S. Now the U.S. is a proxy for Israel, for the Greater Israel Project. So I don't think anybody can deny Trump's going to get us all killed. And he's been totally erratic and half-baked on this whole thing. And the mullahs didn't fall. And so the next move, as I've warned and Joe Kent's warned, will be to escalate.
The next move is to escalate. That sounds about right, doesn't it? That means well, if you're 42 or under, that means your kids, potentially. That means your grandkids, potentially. That's where we are, folks. It's 25th Amendment time for Donald J. Trump. Is it not? Who's with me out there? Selective Service System wants to wargame the draft, which is exactly what we're talking about tonight. Hello and welcome to Diamond Report Live. It's your host, Doug Diamond. It is 8/2/26. Can you believe it's August already? 9:06 p.m. on August the 2nd, 2026. Welcome to everybody who's listening live. A little housekeeping note, as they say. We will not be live next Sunday. We're doing the show this week, normal time, and we're here now. And then I have to help my family next week on the 9th. We will be moving my daughter in to college, much to my chagrin. No, she's found a place she really feels like she wants to be, and we're going to be moving her next weekend. So my apologies for missing the show. However, what I'm going to do is try and do a show early. I can't make any promises, but I'm hoping to do a show possibly Friday night. I don't think it would be before that. So we may have a special earlier Diamond Report Live on Friday, the 7th of August, perhaps. I will let you guys know that for sure on Substack. So make sure you're on the Substack list, or you can just watch your YouTube channels or Facebook pages or wherever you happen to watch the show, and I will certainly let you guys know. If I can't make it work, you just won't hear from me. I won't do a blast out saying, oh, I'm not going to do the show, because that's too confusing for people who aren't listening live or who don't see the show for like a week or two. So I will only send an email out notice if I'm going to do the show on Friday night. It would only be Friday night. The reason that I may not do it is because I am a perfectionist when it comes to trying to put this show together in the end. So I like to do my final edit the next day, and Saturday's already booked for me. So we will see what happens. So no promises, but we'll try and do the show on Friday the 7th this coming week, and there will be no show on August the 9th. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. So anyway, hello and welcome. It's Doug Diamond here. Hope you guys had a good week. Hope you had a blessed week thus far. And let's take a look at the news. The first thing I have pulled up is what we just watched the video on. Selective Service System wants to wargame the draft. This is from Military Times. It is official, fearing that its new plans for the U.S. military draft pool won't work. I think that's a pretty good assumption. The Selective Service System wants to create a computer simulation to test scenarios for its national mobilization. The Readiness Simulation, quote-unquote, project, the Readiness Simulation project comes as the U.S. government is about to change its draft registration system. Yeah, that means you have no choice. That's basically what that means. Since 1940, men within a designated age range have been required to register with Selective Service, but under a proposed rule, men aged 18 to 26 will be automatically registered starting this December the 19th. The Selective Service System will work off data contained in other federal databases. So if you never applied for that Social Security card, now you're kind of grinning. When your kid was born, if you never had a Social Security card, you're in good shape. However, most people do. Questions remain about how prepared the Selective Service System is to handle the change. SSS, that's appropriate, huh? The SS currently relies on manual analyses, legacy modeling approaches, outdated assumptions, and historical data sets that do not fully reflect modern demographics, communications channels, throughput constraints, or operational readiness conditions, warned the agency in a request for, quote, for the Readiness Simulation Tool. The deadline for vendors to propose their simulation models is August 14th. They mean AI models is what they're talking about here. The computer simulation will explore multiple areas. These include evaluating staffing and resource requirements, comparing mobilization and policy and police scenarios, and assessing the operational impact of surge conditions. In addition, the system will, quote, identify throughput risks, delays, and bottlenecks, and support executive planning and reporting obligations. The goal is a simulation system that models the full end-to-end SSS, again, the selective service system mobilization pipeline. Supports configurable scenarios and provides decision support analytics necessary for leadership, planners, and operators. So anyway, there's a little bit more here on this article, and this is on Military Times. So let's look at this one. This is really the same idea here. This is on AJ's site, Alex Jones Live. Trump admin gives vendors under 3 weeks to create computer simulation models for military draft. So we just heard about this, obviously, from AJ and in the Bound report that we just watched tonight. Military Times reported the news on Friday, noting the Readiness Simulation Project, which I just told you about. So anyway, there's a little bit more here on this site as well. Here's the video we just watched. Coup alert. Netanyahu brags he wrote Section 224 of the 2027 NDAA that hands control of the Pentagon to Israel. So don't you know, Israel really, really wants our draft to kick in so they don't have to go themselves and die, which that's not really, that is happening. I mean, there are military people from the IDF who are involved in the whole Iran situation, I'm sure. I've seen casualty numbers at least, so there must be. But no, they would prefer that we go die for them. So just keep that in mind when you're waving to your kid so long off to war and you're about to die for Israel. How's that make you feel? I say 25th Amendment time, don't you? Anyways, I'm not joking. I think it's time for DJT to go. So anyways, yeah, good news, huh? Well, not really. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of this so that you can let those in your families be aware of this who are in that age range, 18 to 26, that the draft is coming and it is automatic. You have no choice, and it starts, the beginning date here is December 19th, 2026. So not long at all. That's why they're pushing this AI simulation model system here. They're pushing that as soon as possible to get that done, to find some contractors for this. So anyway, lovely, huh? Yes. And then let's look at this one. We've got a Hal Turner radio show article along those lines. Embassies urging Americans to, quote, leave Middle East. This is dated yesterday. Again, HalTurnerRadioShow.com. United States Department of State, Bureau of Diplomatic Security alert. Immediate action required. All U.S. citizens in the Middle East should depart now when flights are available. I wonder why they are just now doing this. Does that signal to you, like it does me, that perhaps something big's about to go down? I mean, why would they just now be doing this? It seemed like maybe they had already done this to some degree. I don't know. It says all U.S. citizens in the Middle East should depart now when flights are available. Do not delay departure. Conditions could deteriorate with little or no warning. United States embassies are urging Americans who are presently in the Middle East countries to leave the region immediately. U.S. embassies across 10 Middle East countries, Oman, Iraq, UAE, Qatar, Israel, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, issued fresh alerts today, meaning yesterday, urging Americans to leave. In the new region-wide warning, the State Department warns Americans in the Middle East to be prepared for escalation in the Iran conflict and should be prepared for flight cancellations, periodic airspace closures, and potential travel disruptions. Most informed observers agree this type of message would only come out if a major military escalation is coming in the Iran conflict. If the conflict does, in fact, escalate, Iran has warned it will target energy infrastructure of countries throughout the Middle East, keeping the flow of oil stopped as it is now, and likely sending the global economy into a factual severe depression from lack of oil/energy. Which is why they are getting ready to push the draft. We need more people. We need more bodies to sacrifice to Moloch or whoever. Anyway, that is on Hal's website, HalTurnerRadioShow.com. And then this is a site that I often refer to as well. Vaccine Impact. U.S. warns Americans to prepare to leave the Middle East as Iran war escalates. This is, again, from vaccineimpact.com. Yesterday, Friday the 31st, U.S. embassies in the Middle East put out their strongest warning since the Iran war started that Americans should prepare to leave due to an escalation in the Iran war. The warnings now come from 10 countries in the Middle East where Americans live. Get ready to flee. Americans in 10 countries warned as U.S. embassies issue stark alert over spiraling Iran war. So if you have friends or family or, anyone that you know over there, perhaps let them know, although they probably are already aware of this, is my guess. The only person I know in that area is Dr. Cousins, who was part of the Lost Arts Radio, team, if you want to call it that. Myself, and Richard Sachs, who has now passed on, and then Dr. Cousins. He lives in Israel, so perhaps he will take that into consideration. Although I sort of doubt it. I think he will probably stay. He'll probably stick it out, is my guess, because that's where his life is now. But I do know that he's over there in harm's way for sure. I don't know really anyone else that lives over there, but perhaps you guys do. This video I did see, Professor Marandi, I guess. Professor Marandi destroys Alan Dershowitz. The best part says this is Epstein attorney Alan Dershowitz debates Professor Marandi of Tehran about who is actually committing genocide. Let me see if this is just a short clip or if it's really long.
And, I hate to say this, but I think I'm in 1935 and I'm sitting opposite Joseph Goebbels right now, and he's making the propaganda case for the Nazi regime just the way this professor is making the propaganda case for the new Nazi regime, which is the regime of Iran. Will you at least admit, sir, that Iran murdered in cold blood as many as 50,000 innocent protesters? And would you admit, if that's true, that comes closer to genocide than anything that Israel has been accused of doing in self-defense after its people were raped, kidnapped, murdered on October 7th? Would you at least admit that the Iranian regime has killed many, many, many thousands of people? Yes or no?
We are not in 1935. We're
Yes or
not
no?
in 1939. We are in 1942. You are the Nazi regime that is carrying out a Holocaust in Gaza. You are the Nazi who is doing it as we speak. You're the evil monster. You say Israel is not a colonial regime? You're from Eastern Europe. You're European. All of those Ashkenazi Jews who are now running the country, they're from Eastern Europe. You came and slaughtered. I'm talking. I didn't interrupt you as you were ranting. You're the people who you support, the people who are running the country, they're Polish. They're Ukrainian. They're from Czechoslovakia. They're from Eastern Europe. You're not even Semite. You're the anti-Semite because you've been slaughtered. You won't let me talk. You are afraid. You're afraid because you know you have no argument. You have no leg to stand on. You slaughtered the Semite Palestinians and you took their land. And you are a proud Zionist who supports a regime that celebrates the rapists in prison. They rape Palestinians in prison and then they're celebrated on television. If you don't let me talk, you're just exposing yourself. You're exposing yourself. You're exposing yourself just as you exposed yourself with Epstein.
Yow. Okay. Well, anyway, that is just a little, couple minute little clip of this particular exchange, but I do find that somewhat interesting and quite funny, actually. Anytime Dershowitz is handed his walking papers, not a bad thing. Anyways, yeah, so that is all on vaccineimpact.com, so feel free to have a look at that. Make sure you're on the Substack list, diamonddisc.substack.com, and you will get all of these links that I mentioned tonight in the broadcast that will show up magically in your inbox. Isn't email amazing? Okay, and then let's see here. Got needtoknow.news. So that one of the big stories this week, of course, other than the Iran war and everything going on over there, is Dr. Fauci pleads the fifth over 100 times as his attorney gets kicked out. So I'm sure you guys have probably all seen clips and things about this, but it is worth mentioning for sure. Fauci pleads the fifth 111 times. Pure theater on Capitol Hill. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times as he resisted answering probing questions from the GOP senators about his culpability regarding the origins and mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Republican Senator Josh Hawley let Fauci know that by repeatedly invoking the Fifth Amendment, that he was likely setting himself up for a contempt of Congress charge. Hawley said, quote, "You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you have been pardoned, as you very well know," end quote. When an individual has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. Dan Dix of Press for Truth, right here, this guy, called the Senate hearing theater. He discussed actual victories against vaccine mandates that are happening in the courts in the video below. So it certainly was theater. I saw some clips of it, did not watch the whole thing, but pretty much the only thing out of Fauci's mouth was simply pleading the fifth every single time. I think at one point, Hawley even asked him what color the carpet was in front of him, what color tie he had on, and he still took the fifth. So that's what we're dealing with here. But we do have a Fauci video. We'll watch that here in a little bit when we go for a break. But yeah, not a lot to say other than he's certainly guilty, and I wish they would have just arrested him right then, because they did kick his attorney out, which was, people applauded. I think that was a good thing. But why didn't they just go ahead and arrest him right there? The members of Congress certainly have that power. They could have just arrested him right there. But they didn't. So what's that say exactly? One could only speculate. But, contempt of Congress, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Don't hold your breath, right? Mike Benz explains why Fauci pleaded the fifth and how it can't save him. Fauci stumbled into the Senate chamber today. This is written on the 29th. Shaking and looking like he hasn't slept in weeks, carrying one enormous shield, the Fifth Amendment. But that shield may not be as strong as he thinks it is. Fauci repeatedly refused to answer questions, apparently deciding that silence was safer than explaining himself under oath. And honestly, that choice tells you plenty all by itself, right? After years of smug lectures and insisting that anyone who questioned him was somehow questioning, quote, science, Fauci suddenly has very little to say when the questions come with legal consequences. Mike Benz believes the reason is very simple. Fauci's backed himself into a corner where every available option right now is dangerous. Tell the truth and he could destroy what little shred of reputation he has left. Lie and he'll get an all-new legal problem that Biden's auto pen pardon can't touch. So Fauci chose door number 3, saying nothing and hope the fifth gets him out of the room alive, which clearly it did. But thanks to that sweeping Biden pardon, the fifth escape hatch may eventually slam shut. Again, don't hold your breath, right? Very black-pilled on this whole thing myself, personally. The auto pen pardon might protect Fauci from prosecution for certain past conduct, but it can't protect him from whatever he says under oath today. That leaves Fauci trapped between answers that could expose what really happened and new testimony that prosecutors tear apart word by word. The auto pen pardon doesn't hand Mr. Fauci a free pass to commit perjury or make false statements years later. So even though Fauci invoked the fifth today, that doesn't end the matter. It will likely begin the next legal fight over whether he had a legitimate right to refuse each question. And it says in Revolver, meaning this website, Revolver readers have heard this argument before. We published a piece on this very topic just a couple weeks ago. The basic principle is that the Fifth Amendment protects you from being forced to give testimony that could be used to prosecute you, but when the pardon removes the threat of federal prosecution for the conduct being discussed, the argument for remaining silent is a heck of a lot harder to make. Yeah, and then here's some of the exchanges here between Fauci and Rand Paul, which, Rand Paul himself, I think, is guilty of taking big pharma money and, I guess, to some degree being compromised himself, although possibly not as bad as Fauci. But you know, if he feels that way, I wonder why he didn't just have him arrested right then. So it does sort of make you think that it is really all theater at this point. And speaking of the pardon, this is the thing that I came across that really, for me personally, really black pills me on this whole thing. This was a post from a couple days ago now from Emerald Robinson, who you guys may be familiar with. She is a news host on Mike Lindell's network. She's pretty good. She does good reporting. Emerald Robinson. Just got a call. The White House is promising blanket pardons to everyone inside Trump's administration at the end of the term. That is why they have paused the Biden auto pen investigation. They're hoping Democrats will honor the pardons. Yes, it's true. So they're going to do the same thing. That's why you haven't heard anything else about the Joe Biden auto pen investigation. It's all put on hold. It's all stopped, maybe, because Trump wants to use the same thing. Now, he'll sign his. That's the only difference here, really. He'll actually sign them. Because the auto pen part, the fact that it was done by a machine and without Biden's knowledge is really the question there. So I like this. It says, Rob Dew's post here. Rob Dew is a former InfoWars guy. Guess who is not going to honor their pardons? Yeah, that would be the Democrats. Yeah. And explains a lot of injustice. Russian collusion hoax, 0 arrests. January 6th, 0 arrests. Mar-a-Lago raid, 0 arrests. Biden auto pen is now crossed out. You won't be seeing that one anymore. 2020 election, 0 arrests. I think you could put the reflecting pool. It's got one or 2 arrests. That's the only other thing here that's not listed. Anyway, there you go. So yeah, I think Biden's going to do. Trump is going to do what Biden did. Sounds like going to do blanket pardons for everyone as they exit, and whenever that is, of course. But because he is planning to run in 2028, so we'll see how that works. And this one says, damning clip of Fauci that makes Swiss cheese of his Fifth Amendment scheme. Won't go too far into this just because we've talked a lot about this already, but it's another pretty good article, and there's a back and forth here between Joe Rogan and Tim Robbins, the actor. They're talking about it becoming a religion right here. It became a religion. Exactly. And you could say that about really anything that has to do with the left. It does become a religion. That's why they are so hardcore about everything that they push, like LGBTQ rights and Black Lives Matter and anything that has to do with race and the trans agenda and everything. It is a religion. All right, another need-to-know.news article. New York City, Mamdani doxes wealthy property owners who could be hit with a new tax on second homes. So he's doxed wealthy property owners who could be hit with a new tax on their second homes. Now, I had to look this up. It says a whatever is a living unit. So here's what I did. Unfortunately, I have to share a separate tab just to get an audio version of this word.
Pied-à-terre.
So I thought we would, play this and have a nice little female voice in here describing exactly how to pronounce it. So here you go.
Pied-à-terre.
Mm-hmm.
Pied-à-terre.
So if you wanted to know how to pronounce that word, that is what we're talking about here. It's a living unit, e.g. apartment or condominium, often located in a large city and is not used as an individual's primary residence. It's not used as an individual's primary residence. Mayor Mamdani's administration has published a searchable database of Big Apple properties that could fall under the state's new
Pied-à-terre.
tax, effectively doxing thousands of wealthy New Yorkers. A comprehensive list was uploaded of all unoccupied non-primary residences in the 5 boroughs worth about $1 million, including the full names and addresses of every property owner. Sean Hannity said the new tax aims to incite class warfare and target the rich. Well, he should know, shouldn't he? He's probably on that list, I'm guessing. Conservatives, including voices like Benny Johnson and Ted Cruz, slammed the move as doxing and a dangerous hit list amid privacy worries and recent violence against wealthy New Yorkers. It does kind of sound that way, doesn't it? Hannity said that the budget for New York City is $126 billion, and the proposed
pied-à-terre,
tax is expected to raise $500 million. It's a tiny blip. He said that the real purpose of the tax is to engage in class warfare and target the rich. I thought that was pretty interesting that they're doxing people now. You could say it was on accident, but I kind of doubt that, don't you? Anyway, that's on needtoknow.news. And you had your little French lesson for today, too. Kind of nice.
pied-à-terre,
Okay, so here's another article, same site. The real reason flock cameras are being destroyed, plus Epstein's role in mass surveillance. James Lee, who is this guy here, explains that flock cameras utilize automated license plate readers, automated license plate readers, ALPR is what they're called, and the information is gathered into a database. There's evidence that flock has expanded into facial recognition. Americans are being tracked without warrants, laws, or their consent. Silicon Valley giants have invested in flock, while Wall Street bankers and Trump back Axon, AXON. The companies are competing to control mass surveillance. Americans must resist the surveillance and tracking of all cameras, not just a single brand. So that's the thing. You kind of get caught up in the whole flock thing and then sidetracked by they're the only ones doing it or something, and they're not the only ones doing it. The real reason they are destroying flock cameras, James Lee explains, the flock cameras utilize automated license plate readers, and the information is gathered to a database. There's evidence that flock has expanded its reach into facial recognition. Americans are being tracked without consent or a warrant. There are 110,000 flock cameras across the nation. Is a competitor to flock that may be replacing the flock cameras. The truth about anti-flock outrage, the hidden Epstein connection. James breaks down a potential astroturfed psyop, astroturf just means fake, psyop unfolding in real time, exposing how a viral wave of anti-flock camera backlash is distracting the public from a sneaky city council bait and switch, and how corporate rivalries between Silicon Valley elites that have invested in flock are competing with Wall Street bankers and Trump who have invested in Axon. Lee warns against falling for the removal of flock cameras that are replaced with Axon. The goal is to remove all surveillance cameras used for tracking that impose on privacy. Lee says that Epstein was involved in the origin of one of these companies. Now, which one do you suppose it would be? Well, let's see. Pick the one that Trump is connected to, and you'll probably have your answer. I'm just guessing. First time I've seen this article, so I really don't know. I haven't watched the video, but that would make the most sense. So, yes, and we do have another video this week on flock cameras, which we will get to in due time. Be very patient. We will get there. For the moment, though, let's just keep moving with the news. We'll come back to that. One more from this same site, though. Needtoknow.news. U.S. Rep. Ilhan Omar's sister linked to central figures in Minnesota's fraud scandal. It's all in the family, isn't it? And that's just the way it goes with these people. The Feeding Our Future scam in Minnesota cost taxpayers a staggering $250 million that was meant to feed hungry children, but disappeared into shell companies and mansions and bank accounts overseas. The majority of the criminals involved in the scheme are from the Somali community. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's sister, Sarah Noor, incorporated her consulting firm at a home on Hyacinth Avenue in Lakeville, Minnesota. That address belongs to Ister Ahmed Afra, a woman with direct business ties to at least 3 convicted Feeding Our Future fraudsters. Noor, N-O-O-R, Noor founded a group called Grit Partners Consulting and publicly says her company has secured more than $20 million in funding for health initiatives. That's a quote. And has consulted on projects backed by federal health agencies such as USAID and the CDC. Both, of course, which are infallible agencies who never have any sort of problems or anything. Noor has reportedly moved back to Africa, and her family has found itself involved directly with the Somali government. Nice. Somali fraudsters. I'm beginning to think the Somalis that are here, pretty much every single one of them is involved in some sort of government fraud. Anyway, yeah. So enough on that, but you can see that there's quite a bit here on this particular story. So yes, imagine that. It's her sister that's also involved in fraud, just like she is. I think her whole family is, from what I can tell. All right, next article, technocracy.news. Technocracy.news, deja vu. Technocrats called for dictatorship and technocracy in 1932. Again, this one is available currently in full, but it does go behind a paywall after a few days. So if you're interested in this one, might want to bookmark it pretty quickly. Technocracy.news. This is written by Patrick Wood. He says, in my tattered copy of Henry Porter's Roosevelt and Technocracy from 1932, an early reader drew a careful bracket around a single passage on page 72. It reads, quote, radical and immediate changes in both our political and economic systems will be necessary. This can best be accomplished by vesting supreme and emergency power in some one man who has the confidence and respect of a majority of the American people. That man is Franklin D. Roosevelt, to whom should be given dictatorial powers in the approaching crisis, end quote. Dictatorial powers in the approaching crisis. It is one thing to know as a generalization that that respectable Americans flirted with dictatorship in the winter of 1932 and 1933. It is quite another to hold a commercially published book in which the proposition is worked out in numbered steps by a financial analyst, and to see that a contemporary reader found the decisive sentence and marked it. Whether that reader bracketed the passage in alarm or in agreement, the pencil does not say. The ambiguity is fitting because the country itself had not decided. Porter is nearly invisible to history, and that is precisely what makes him valuable. His title page bills him as a nationally known economist and financial analyst and lists his other works. Profitless Prosperity is one of them. Gentlemen of America is another book. Romance of Natural Gas. Research and Retrogression, and America's Greatest Tragedy. Titles that place him not in any university, but on the investment commentary circuit of the day. So here's the pop-up here that he's talking about. That's got the bracket around it, right directly from his book. This can best be accomplished by vesting supreme and emergency power in some one man who has the confidence and respect of the majority of American people. That man is Franklin D. Roosevelt, to whom should be given dictatorial powers in the approaching crisis. Wow. That is pretty wild, huh? So somebody was onto him, but who knows why they bracketed them. They might have just thought it was an important point they were making. Let's see here. Looking to see if there's anything else worth mentioning on this particular story. Interesting that they were looking for a dictator, though, back in the 30s. It says, nor was the dictatorship half of Potter's program eccentric in its moment. The leaderless winter produced an entire literature of respectable authoritarianism. Walter Lippmann, the most influential columnist in the country, told Roosevelt to his face at Warm Springs that he might have no alternative but to assume dictatorial powers, and told his readers that the danger was not that Congress would give Roosevelt too much power, but that it would give him too little. Eleanor Roosevelt herself remarked that if the crisis demanded it, a benevolent dictator might be the only way through. The old benevolent dictator, huh? Yeah, I think we might have one of those now, except I'm not sure how benevolent he is. And his name is not Donald J. Trump. His name is Benjamin Netanyahu, the actual president of the United States. At least in practice. All right, and then Clarity Act. Will it pass or not? I had not heard of the Clarity Act, I must admit, but I'm not really a Bitcoin person. We'll just read through this real quick. The bum's rush is on. Republican Senator Cynthia Loomis just slammed Democrat lawmakers for dragging their feet over the Clarity Act. CNBC is pimping hard for it. Arch technocrats are in a sweat over it. Trump has been pressuring the senators to pass it and is expected to pick up the phone to whip dissenting senators into line. What is the rush? This is the last piece of legislation needed to cement America's privatized financial system in place. That's a blurb from Patrick Wood again on technocracy.news. Pro-crypto Senator Cynthia Loomis on Wednesday slammed Democrats for holding back the Clarity Act. Speaking on the Senate floor, Loomis of Wyoming spoke of the bipartisan work that had gone into the bill, but questioned why it was still stalling. Lawmakers had hoped the Clarity Act got passed before Congress departs for the August recess. While the bill has been drafted bipartisanly, some Democrats are unhappy with the current version, looking to see what it does exactly. Despite being passed in the House of Representatives last year with strong bipartisan support, the Clarity Act has been in a deadlock for much of 2026. Partially, the banking lobby raised concerns over stable coin yield. Republicans are hoping to gain bipartisan support for the bill this week to advance the legislation. If passed, the long-awaited bill would create a regulatory framework for the cryptocurrency market. Aha. She is known as the Bitcoin Senator. So they want to regulate the crypto market. That's why there's in such a push to get this. The Clarity Act is one of those perfectly named things, because the Clarity Act's job is to muddy the waters for everything related to crypto. Pretty easy to see that when you know what to look for. There will be nothing made clearer. It will only be made cloudier. That's the whole purpose of calling it the Clarity Act. Now we know what it's really about. Fourth Circuit Court, the border search exception meets your phone. Fourth Amendment? ? Forget it. Roughly 2/3 of the U.S. population, or about 200 to 213 million people, lives within U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, 100-mile border enforcement zone. Your smartphone can now be manually searched without cause or suspicion and without a warrant. For most people, a fingerprint or a facial scan unlocks your phone instantly. You cannot be legally compelled to reveal your password, but refusal has consequences. Device seizure, prolonged detention, and for non-citizens, potential admissibility issues. If you refuse a manual search, the Customs and Border Protection can use a forensic tool like Celebrite's UFED, or Grayshift's Gray Key that are specifically designed to extract data from locked, encrypted, and password-protected phones without the owner providing a passcode. I bet you those are developed in Israel. Should we look? I'll look in just a second. I'm just guessing, but I'll bet you at least one of those two are made in Israel. These tools can bypass screen locks, locate backup passwords, extract data from secure apps, and even recover deleted files. Fourth Circuit issued a disappointing opinion in U.S. versus Belmont Cardzo, a case in which EFF filed an amicus brief alongside the National ACLU and its Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia affiliates and the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. We argued that electronic device searches at the border should require a warrant based on probable cause. But at minimum, regardless of whether an officer searches by hand or with forensic software that plugs into a device and downloads its entire contents for search, the same Fourth Amendment standard should apply to all device searches at the border. Here's a video embedded here. Can U.S. border agents search your phone? I guess they've decided that they can. It says, unfortunately, the court rejected that argument and ruled that a lower standard applies to manual searches, allowing the government to conduct extraordinarily invasive electronic device searches without any suspicion of wrongdoing, simply because the border officer chooses to search by hand rather than with a forensic tool. It talks about the disappointing court decision. Silver lining, there's one silver lining. By relying on the fact that the search lasted only 2 minutes, the Fourth Circuit left open the possibility that lengthier manual searches could trigger heightened suspicion requirements. But until a clear line is drawn, border officers within the Fourth Circuit's jurisdiction can use manual searches to sidestep heightened Fourth Amendment standards that would otherwise apply. In the meantime, EFF will keep fighting against extraordinarily invasive warrants, suspicionless device searches at the border, and for robust privacy standards to protect our most personal data. Yeah, so let's take a look at the, let me find the software programs they're talking about again. Celebrite's UFED. Just do a quick little search here. Celebrite UFED, Universal Forensic Extraction Device, is a digital forensics tool used by law enforcement, military, and enterprise security to extract, decode, and analyze data from mobile phones, tablets, and other digital devices. Annual software licenses and hardware packages typically cost between $6,000 and $20,000. Okay. So we'll ask who was a programmer or app author. Celebrite. Oh, well, looky there. The company that built the software was established in 1999 by Avi Yablonka, Yaron Baratz, and Yuval Afalo. Those are all distinctly American names, aren't they? What country was the original programmer? Location. Let's see. Israel. There you go. UFED located in Israel. You're welcome. I mean, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel at this point. So that was the first one. The second one may also be from the same country. So who knows? But not that difficult to figure that kind of stuff out, is it? All right, let's look at this one. This starts the next largest story of the week, or at least the end of the week. 60,000 migrants stream into Spanish territory of, and then there's some question on how to say this. I think it's Ceuta, C-E-U-T-A, of which no one in the entire world had ever heard of this little place before a few days ago, but now everyone in the world knows, at least knows the spelling of it probably. Ceuta. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. I think that's correct. Around 60,000 migrants poured into the Spanish territory of Ceuta in a period of under 24 hours from Thursday to Friday. Ceuta is one of 2 autonomous Spanish cities on the Mediterranean coast at the northwest tip of Africa. Social media videos of the mass migration seem to show mostly young to middle-aged men making the trip. No kidding. At least 34 people died while entering the area, many by drowning as they swam to the city by the sea, said the Ceuta president, Juan Lara. Most of the migrants have traversed from Morocco. The situation in Ceuta was unsustainable for a city of around 80,000. Ceuta and the Spanish territory of Melilla share the EU's only land borders with Africa. Ceuta has been a Spanish possession since 1580. Yeah, but apparently Morocco was still claiming it. 1580. It's a long time. EU Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen wrote online that people could not be allowed to come to the Union without following the rules. Dangerous crossings and smuggling must stop, and returns must be swift, she wrote. She dispatched commissioners to Spain and Morocco. Well, she clearly hadn't had the phone call from Bibi first, I guess. Meanwhile, Spain's government sent armed forces to support the civil guard in the area and maintain security, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Friday. Additionally, the government will set up a physical barrier in the sea to block migrants. He said the Spanish leader blamed human smugglers for deceiving young people into making the journey. Spain's Interior Ministry said Friday that about 25,000 migrants have already returned to Morocco. On Friday, individuals were leaving the city at a rate of 150 people per minute. So they were there and then they left. Why are the migrants streaming in? Several weeks ago, Spain's Supreme Court ruled that migrants arriving by sea could not be summarily deported. Spanish news site El País, I guess, reported those who cross by land or climb the border fence could still be deported immediately by immigration officers without a hearing before a judge. Unlike in the United States, when you cross the border illegally, you get at least a decade before you ever even have to show up at a court appointment. How have other world leaders responded? Italy's leader, Giorgia Meloni, called for the suspension of the Schengen Agreement, a treaty that eliminated internal border checks. French Interior Minister said that France would strengthen border checks at the two countries' shared border. Manfred Weber, leader of the European People's Party group in the European Parliament, said Sanchez needed to act swiftly to protect common external borders. Okay, so that's kind of the official story, overall picture more or less of what happened. And then there's, I'm sure many of you guys have seen the videos. Here's the RT article about this. U.S. and Israel staged Spain migration invasion, according to Iran. The Ceuta crisis was supposed to serve as punishment for Madrid's stance on the Middle East conflict, Tehran has argued. Yeah, they weren't on the right side of Bibi and Trump. The U.S. and Israel orchestrated the mass migrant crossing from Morocco into Spain's North African enclave of Ceuta to punish Madrid for its refusal to bow to pressure on the Middle East conflicts. Iran's embassy in Kenya has suggested Spain has been at odds with Washington in West Jerusalem over the Gaza war and strikes on Iran. Over the past several days, roughly 50 to 60,000 migrants crossed from Morocco into Ceuta by land and sea in numbers equivalent to some 70% of the enclave's regular population. The local authorities admitted they had been completely overwhelmed by the sudden surge. Yeah, you would think. The crisis, the largest human traffic invasion in EU's history, claimed the lives of at least 86 people. The toll expected to rise further. Many of the victims drowned in the sea or were crushed in the stampede at the border checkpoints. 86 people. So I guess those were mostly, if not all, these migrants. I don't know. On Friday, the Iranian embassy in Nairobi described the migrant surge as an operation organized by Washington and Tel Aviv, coordinated with certain neighboring authorities to destabilize Spain. It also branded the crisis as a gift to Europe's far right and punishment for the country that dared to challenge the American empire and its Israeli henchmen, warning that the empire never tolerates defiance. I think there is a lot to be said there, don't you? Although I don't know if Israel's our henchmen or if they're the ones in charge. I think, personally. I've got several articles here on this issue. Oh, yeah, this is on AA.com. Spanish politicians, commentators, accuse Israel of stirring chaos over Ceuta migration crisis. Israeli diplomat Danny Danon and Spanish Transport Minister Oscar Puente exchanged barbs over Ceuta migration claims, while Spanish commentators accuse Israel of seeking revenge against Madrid over its Gaza policy. Plus, also remember that that it was Spain that beat Venezuela in the FIFA finals. So maybe that has a little something to do with it too. Another little tweak. Argentina is now a heavily fortified Israeli area at this point. Diplomatic tensions between Spain and Israel of the Gaza war have increasingly spilled onto social media, with the migration crisis in Spain's North African enclave of Ceuta emerging as the latest flashpoint after an exchange of barbs between Israeli UN ambassador Danon and Spanish Transport Minister Puente. Spain, which never misses an opportunity to lecture Israel, has declared a state of emergency in Ceuta following a crisis over its immigration policy, Danon wrote on X. Maybe before it continues lecturing us, it's time it explained to the world why it still maintains colonial enclaves in Africa, he added, referring to Spanish territories of Ceuta and Melilla on Morocco's Mediterranean coast. Quoting Danon's post on X, Puente responded, "Well, it all seems to be becoming quite clear." While the minister did not elaborate, his remark was widely interpreted as a response to Danon's criticism and came amid growing political debate in Spain over the migration crisis and Israel's role in regional politics. Yeah, so a lot of people are saying that this was mostly the U.S. and especially Israel's doing, as far as the ongoing throngs of people that were waved in to Ceuta. And then speaking of waving in, video of young girl waving in 49,000 shirtless African migrants in Spain holds a chilling secret. I think it's embedded here. Well, here, let's just watch some of these videos. If you haven't seen this, this is the chaos here that was going on just a day or so ago. Just looting and plundering and pillaging everything.
Finally reacting. In recent days, tens of thousands have streamed into the enclave of Ceuta, including women and children, overwhelming authorities, and yes, as many as 18 have been killed in the crush. Ceuta is one of 2 Spanish territories along the Moroccan coast in northern Africa, the closest to Europe, Spain the only European country with this African link. It's not clear exactly what's caused the latest stampede. There was that recent Spanish court ruling saying immigrants arriving by sea should not be turned back, a new Spanish program granting legal status to illegal immigrants. Spain, arguably the most migrant open country in Europe. Madrid blames human traffickers for the hordes arriving, preying on people who say economic conditions in Morocco and Africa are driving the onslaught. Spain's neighbors aren't pleased. Italy's Prime Minister Meloni posting, quote, "Uncontrolled illegal immigration poses a threat to the security of Europe." One organization claiming a 60% increase in Europe's immigrant population in the last 15 years.
That's all that's been going on pretty much in Europe over the last, 10 years or so. Uncontrolled migration influx. I was looking to see, here's the one with the girl waving in all these guys. Let this sequence be burned into your mind forever. This is what liberal white women will be doing in mass if the left ever wins power again in America in our lifetime. They will gleefully wave in the migrant swarm who will rape and behead them just to spite you. Watch what she's doing. I guess that maybe this is her camera here. I don't know, but obviously this is somebody filming her. She's just saying, "Come on in." I'm surprised nobody grabbed her right then. Yeah, a rape parade. That's exactly right. The clip has exploded online because it's a perfect snapshot of the modern liberal mindset. A young woman is proudly watching hordes of mostly military-age African Muslim men storm into her country, and she couldn't be happier. She's all smiles, filming and waving them in as though she's cheering at a parade, a rape parade. This is the political equivalent of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Oh, is that the case, huh? Well, speaking of noses, let's have a look at her nose and just see kind of what we're dealing with here. Hold on, let me find it. Let me find her. Now, there she is. Jewish woman waves migrants into Ceuta. She is there. Oh, cutting off your nose to spite your face. Turns out she's Jewish. Just waving them in. Well, I'm sure that's just a total coincidence, aren't you? Yeah. That's pretty much just going to be a surprise. All right. Anyways, enough on that. But yeah, you saw how the crazies were allowed to run in, and now they're claiming that many of them have gone back. We'll get to that in just a second. Zionists celebrate Spanish migrant invasion. The Israeli right views the storming of Ceuta as divine punishment for Spain. As nearly 60 or 50,000 North African migrants surged into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta overnight, one group responded with mockery and glee. Israeli politicians and their Zionist supporters who celebrated the slap in Spanish President Pedro Sanchez's face. An estimated 49,000 migrants, predominantly young Moroccan men, stormed across Morocco's border with the Spanish enclave of Ceuta between Thursday and Friday, after guards on the Moroccan side seemingly decided to open the barbed wire gates built to prevent such a surge. As videos of the migrants marauding through Ceuta spread on social media, local authorities in the city begged for military intervention from Madrid. Sanchez refused to declare a national emergency, but sent a task force of 60 troops to the enclave. 60 troops to hold back 60,000. That's probably not too good of odds. Even I can figure that out. Ben-Gvir wants open borders for Spain, but not for Israel. They get to have borders, but Spain, no borders. No borders for you. Yeah. That sounds about right, doesn't it? So we have a lot on this Spain situation tonight. And just so happens that Yair Netanyahu happened to tweet back in 2019, says, "Dear Arabs and Muslims, want to free occupied Arab Islamic lands? Here's a good start." Notice Ceuta right here. From May of 2019 is when he tweeted this. Benjamin Netanyahu's son, Yair, who I think has changed his name now, by the way, but I remember hearing that. But yes, he was out there pushing the fact that they needed to go take it back. Entitled Migrants Complain About Hospitality and Prices After Invading Spanish Territory. Third worlders, or as we say sometimes, turd worlders, thought they were marching into a free buffet with easy access to amenities, jobs, and Westerners bowing at their feet. One of the most egregious fantasies promoted by liberals over the past several decades is the worshipful image of the desperate and grateful third world asylum seeker. We see it constantly in movies, television, and popular media. The narrative of the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. This narrative has become so ingrained in Western culture that it's absolutely world-shattering when people find out how entitled and arrogant most migrants really are. The flood of over 60,000 Muslim migrants from Morocco into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta has dashed a lot of progressive delusions in the past week, with migrants fresh from the beaches already looting businesses, raiding homes, attacking locals, and setting fires. Don't forget pooping in the streets. They left that one out. European officials are reluctantly admitting that the invasion is a problem that must be corrected. The video evidence on social media is a crushing blow to the multicultural agenda, so much so that Ursula von der Leyen, head of the European Commission, complained about the optics of the images coming out of Ceuta on social media. Yeah, so instead of shutting it down, though, you'd think she would probably just try and censor the social media posts. Spanish officials have attacked the negative response of some European leaders as selfish and prejudiced, stating that the EU would be harmed by the polarizing rhetoric. We wouldn't want that. Yeah, anyway. Oh, there's one kid. There's not going to be very many kids. It's mostly all, again, military-age men. Anyway, a bit more information on this article on AJ's site. And then last article on this, according to DW anyway, again, this is dated. This seems a little too quick to me, but according to this, DW.com, Spain says most migrants have returned to Morocco. So it's all over. So just forget about it and let's talk about something else. Spanish authorities say most people who Chad irregularly crossed the border from Morocco had already left Ceuta by Friday evening. Spain's government said that an estimated 48,300 migrants had returned to Morocco by 6 p.m. local time on Friday. Yeah, they just instantly went back, I guess. The figures would mean that most of the 60,000 migrants estimated to have breached the border have already left. I don't think I'm buying that one. Now, some of them probably did go back, but it says estimated 48,300. How would they even know that? Because they don't know for sure how many even got there. According to Reuters news agency, several hundred people could be seen voluntarily making their way back to Morocco through border posts and holes in the fence. Some of them reportedly said they were unable to find food or shelter in Ceuta. Moroccan police in riot gear used tear gas to disperse some of those who were still gathering near the border fences. So they did get a little tough on some of them, I guess. So again, according to DW.com, most of the migrants have returned to Morocco, only to do it again, probably. So I guess it was just it was a free-for-all, but it was really just a field trip. They've all gone home now. Nothing more to see here, and don't ask any more questions. It's all over. Yeah, I sort of doubt that, though, don't you? All right, well, we were talking about the Iran war stuff, so this is one of the other news items that have come out in the last, 24, 36 hours, whatever. Water system hacks hit 7 states this week as Trump shoots down the Iran theory. Quote, coordinated cyber attack struck more than 30 community water systems in Minnesota over July 26, 27. 30 community water systems in Minnesota. Probably is a cyber attack, but who knows by who? CIA, probably. Cyber attacks on municipal water systems were reported in at least 7 states this week, according to a joint public service announcement from the FBI and the EPA, the Environmental Pollution Agency. And in some cases, the agencies say the malicious activity actually degraded water operations. The feds declined to name the states, so they can't tell us for our own protection which states were targeted. Well, we know Minnesota. We don't know the others. The warning lands just days after we reported that a coordinated cyber attack struck more than 30 community water systems in Minnesota over July 26, 27, knocking the water plant in Tiny Braham offline for a stretch, pushing Plymouth and South St. Paul onto manual operations, and prompting Maple Plain to declare a local state of emergency, according to Just the News. And that article is linked here. The playbook, per federal officials, was crude but effective. Attackers remotely accessed internet-facing operational technology, changed device IP addresses and passwords, and locked utility operators out of their own monitoring and control systems. That was reported by NBC News. The PSA is now pleading with authorities to do the bare minimum, pull programmable logic controllers off the open internet and put them behind gateways and firewalls, use actual passwords, and restrict which devices are allowed to talk to one another. Yes, in the year 2026, a non-trivial share of the machines controlling America's drinking water are still sitting on the public internet, some with absurdly simple passwords. CISA followed Thursday with an advisory warning that Iranian-affiliated actors are going after U.S. critical infrastructure, water and wastewater systems included. An update to guidance the agency first pushed out in April, which we flagged in our earlier coverage. Some of the larger water sector intrusions and advisory notes have produced boil water notices and left plants grinding along in manual mode for extended stretches. Wow. So I think the most interesting point here is that they won't tell us who the other states were. It's apparently leaked that, that Minnesota is the first one hit, perhaps. But why wouldn't they tell us? That is so strange. Anyway, that is a Alex Jones Live article. And then here's one more. This one's on WNG.org. Feds probe cyber attack that hit Minnesota water systems. So they're just confining this particular story to Minnesota, not the other states. It says water and wastewater utility companies in at least 7 states reported incidents since July 27th. Water operations have lost pressure and experienced flooding, which could allow untreated groundwater to seep into pipes, and the Bureau warned hackers targeted automated computers that control the water systems and changed the passwords to lock out the operators. Again, it mentions that there's 7 states, but it doesn't say the other 6. Trump seemed to downplay the cyber attack, saying that at Camp David on Friday that he didn't think the attack had even come from Iran, but was instead caused by Minnesota's gross incompetence. Yeah, but that doesn't explain the other 6 states that they won't tell us about, does it? I tend to think that it probably was a cyber attack, but who knows by whom. I don't know. Anyway, here's another Trump story. Trump to replace many migrant truckers with veterans. I'm going to give them some jobs here. Transportation officials plan to replace unqualified migrant truck drivers with American veterans, Trump said on Thursday. The new Freedom Haulers initiative will allow any American veteran with experience driving heavy military trucks to receive automatic eligibility for a CDL, commercial driver's license, Trump said. Veterans already have experience driving the toughest roads on earth while defending American freedoms, according to a separate video from the Department of Transportation. Officials specifically encourage veterans to apply for a license within 2 years of active duty. Veterans without heavy truck driving experience would receive an expedited tuition-free course, Trump explained. So perhaps that's one thing that Trump might be doing that's okay. That might be the only thing that he's doing that's okay, which is why I wanted to point that out. But, for the most part, he's, 99% evil. But there is that 1%, perhaps, that might be somewhat acceptable. Maybe that's one of the things, but who knows. All right, Children's Health Defense, usually mention an article or so from this website. Schools are pushing mental health screening. Research shows it does more harm than good. Yeah, I wanted to mention this just because we got school starting really all over the place now. I'm surprised how soon schools are starting back up. It seems like it gets earlier every year. But schools have already started around here, or they will be in the next week or so. So you pretty much lose all of August, I guess. If you were a kid, you pretty much just get June, July at this point. School-based routine or universal mental health screening often functions as an entry point to a therapeutic culture that pathologizes normal childhood distress, erodes resilience, and funnels children toward psychiatric labels, therapy, and medication, according to Gretchen Watson, PhD, a clinical psychologist and researcher. Yeah, it also gets them on the short list for the whole trans thing, oftentimes. An increasing number of children are likely to face a mental health screening when they return to school this fall, but experts warned those screenings pose more risk than benefit and urged parents to opt out with their child. Probably a good plan, if you can. While early identification sounds responsible, in practice it risks doing more harm than good. School-based routine or universal mental health screening often functions as an entry point into a therapeutic culture that pathologizes normal childhood distress, erodes resilience, and funnels children towards psychiatric labels and therapy and medication, she said. Nearly 1/3 of U.S. schools now conduct some form of mental health screening, and that number is likely to increase as more states work to pass mental health screening mandates. Yeah, you got to get more people starting out earlier on the big pharma routine of taking drugs, don't you? So here's the type of questions. It says the power of suggestion. Could screenings cause depression and anxiety? A key criticism of mental health screenings is that they may paradoxically cause harm by using confusing and suggestive languages. Watson pointed out that the pediatric depression and anxiety questionnaires commonly include leading questions like this. In the past few weeks, have you wished you were dead? Or have you felt that you or your family would be better off if you were dead? These are just opening questions here. Have you been having thoughts about killing yourself? There's another one. Wow. Have you ever tried to kill yourself? Are you having thoughts of killing yourself right now? How often have you felt overwhelmed in the past month? Well, that one doesn't seem too terrible. Or this one, are you sad much of the time? Not quite as bad, but wow, that's pretty hardcore. Now I ask, how would you have answered those questions at age 8 or at age 13? As a K through 12 student, I would definitely not be thinking about my contribution to society or managing my mental health. Were you? Wow. So that is, very probing and pushy questions that could cause the exact problems that you're looking for. So anyway, just be aware if you guys weren't already, which I'm sure many of you guys were, but I did not know they were pushing mental health screenings in school. But apparently so. All right, we got an RT article here. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention these. Miss Betty's here tonight. Watch, devastating wildfires tear through Washington state. A fast-moving blaze is swept through the Spokane area, burning more than 1,000 hectares by Saturday evening. Wildfires burning across more than 100,000 hectares in Washington state in the U.S. have triggered widespread evacuations and power outages around the city of Spokane. Large parts of Spokane were placed under the highest level 3 evacuation order as strong winds drove flames into residential areas. Wow. Officials urged residents to leave immediately due to the life-threatening conditions, while an evacuation shelter was opened at a local community college. The largest blaze, the Old Trails Fire, ignited around noon and had burned more than 1,000 hectares by late afternoon, according to Washington State Department of Natural Resources. The fire spread rapidly through brush and grass into residential neighborhoods. Wow.
I don't think we should. Oh my gosh. Bro.
Wow.
Holy crap. I can feel the heat.
It's hot. There's a car.
Oh, they're turning around. What? Oh, hell. Oh, hell.
There's another one. Man. Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown said around 200 homes have been evacuated by mid-afternoon, along with several major facilities, including water reclamation plants and waste-to-energy facility and a local hospital. So it goes on and on. There's a bunch here. Look at these. Wow. That is amazing. It just goes on and on. There's video after video after video on here. This is on RT. But yeah, so prayers for these folks. Wow, what a mess. Washington State, Spokane area in particular. And there's heat everywhere. This has been another story this week about the Danube River. Sunken Nazi warships resurface in Europe amid record heat wave. A prolonged drought has pushed the Danube River to record low levels, revealing long submerged relics. Several sunken World War II-era Nazi warships have resurfaced in the Danube River amid a major heat wave and prolonged drought. The vessels became visible as the water level in Europe's second longest river fell to record lows. Photos and videos posted on social media showed massive shipwrecks lying in the water and on a sand ridge in the middle of the waterway near the village of Prahovo in Serbia. Elsewhere, the wreck of a Hungarian cargo ship that sank in 1937 resurfaced near the Croatian village of Opatovac. So I guess this is showing how low the water is, and here's one of the ships. Some 200 vessels could be lying on the bottom of the Danube River, according to the European Investment Bank. River transport has nearly come to a halt due to the low water levels, according to Hungary's Transport Ministry. Hungarian Prime Minister Magyar also said that the Pax nuclear power plant, which covers nearly half of Hungary's electricity needs, could be shut down for weeks because of insufficient water levels. It's got some flyovers there. You can see some of the ships. Here's more as well down here. Pretty wild, huh? In Budapest, a German World War II artillery shell was found near Margaret Bridge, one of the city's major traffic arteries. Last week, it says the discovery prompted brief safety closures as a bomb disposal team was deployed into the area. In northern Bulgaria, the drying up river revealed what is believed to be the remains of a mammoth. The bones were found by a local resident. A director of regional history museum in the nearby town of Rus called the discovery was very important for science. Here's the bones here, I guess. Mammoth bones. So crazy. Some crazy stuff going on here. So we got droughts and record low levels in rivers, and we have fires in other places. Sounds about right, doesn't it? Kind of stuff that we talk about on the show a lot. And I thought I'd bring this site back just because it does have some really good headlines. What's happening around the world with regard to the state of the climate, and don't let somebody tell you that there's nothing happening and there's nothing to be concerned about. It's just that, as Mr. Dane says, geoengineering is really wrecking the climate across the world, and it's far worse than what we're being told. What's behind these summer heat waves scorching huge parts of the world? Strong El Nino adding fuel to a planet already on fire, warns UN chief. Sea surface temperatures are substantially warming across the entire Arctic Ocean in July during the satellite era. We're going to look at something here in just a second, which I find really interesting. That's related to sea surface temperatures. England and Wales are on course for their driest July since records began 190 years ago. Why are so many dead bumblebees appearing on sidewalks? Climate change fuels record-breaking fires in Spain's hottest July on record. So Spain had fires as well as the cavorting migrants running across the across the border. Insurers are actively evaluating new catastrophe risks as Europe burns. And here's severe storms in Germany, even though it was in the middle of a heat wave. So yeah, lots of further article headlines here. Here's the Danube. Again, Danube drought exposes everything from shipwrecks to centuries-old projectiles, which we just mentioned both of those things. Blazes burning with the intensity of atomic bombs. Wow. Greece orders partial evacuation of Athens suburb as a wildfire burns. So it's mostly fires, I guess. Torrential rains and fires. So floods and fires, mostly. We got flooding in Saudi Arabia, flooding in Pakistan. They had just recently had flooding in China as well, I know. Mumbai, flooding. So this is the kind of stuff that happens when you actively geoengineer the planet for decades. You get drought and deluge. Another typhoon. Showed some footage of that last week on last week's show. Record high temperatures. Just goes on and on and on. Well, this is the video I wanted you guys to see, and I had two people send me this video the same day, really about the same time. And I thought it was a good one. We won't watch the whole thing. Now, if you guys have seen this, my apologies, but it is really interesting. Ancient iceberg collapse. This is in Greenland. So we'll watch just a few minutes at the beginning, and then I'll skip to more into the center. This is from a YouTube channel. Many of you guys already know about it. Real BP Earthwatch, which is a really good YouTube channel out there. So thanks to him for putting this together, and let's check this out.
Guys, you're looking at amazing images, and these are not normal. This is a gigantic iceberg, megatons, millions of years old, just off the coast of Greenland, off the west coast at an area called Illicet. And it was moving from right to left. Then it suddenly stops, and you're going to start to see it crack and break apart and roll completely over. The thing about it, you're looking at 350 foot of ice above the surface and 750 to 900 feet below it. Sometimes up to 90% of an iceberg is submerged, but the waters are too warm there. We've been watching them on Greenland and the North Pole, and it started melting the bottom of this gigantic ice continent. We're going to get into detail about it, guys. Hang in there. Very interesting, and it perfectly shows what's happening to our planet. Now let's take a look exactly where we're at here. And this is, again, Illicet Bay. This is in Greenland. And again, here's the U.S. Let's pull this up, guys. Here's where the iceberg that we're going to watch is located. And what I've got this set on is sea surface temperature right there. And it's 46.7 degrees, guys. You know, the icebergs are much colder than that, of course, and seawater that freezes is about 28.8 degrees, something in that range, not the 32 that you see freeze at freshwater temperatures. But this was floating in this area, again, 46.7 degrees, and let's look at the sea surface temperature anomalies. How far above normal is that area? And let's move the cursor right inside the bay here, guys. And you've got 9.8 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. These are record temps. We've been watching it for the last couple of months.
So 10 degrees above normal is what he's saying here. The water temperatures in Greenland.
All the way from the North Pole to the South Pole. And now we're starting to see the real-time effects. Again, let me just back this up a moment. And guys, this is critical. Look at the heat surrounding our polar ice cap, all the way around from the Russian rivers and bays to record high temperatures and record depletion of the ice caps. And looking at going back to sea surface temperature, going back.
Mr. Dane has been talking often, really for years, but especially lately, about a possible blue ocean event occurring this year. That means all ice melted. Blue ocean event, all ice melted. So we may be in store for that. I don't know.
Back to the sea surface temperature, you can see the reduction of the sea ice. If it's white, it's ice, but this should be much larger, guys. And it's starting to see cracks, and it's starting to see waves underneath the ice caps about 15 to 16 foot deep. The buoys are indicating it, and that's lifting the ice up and breaking apart. But the record temperatures is what's causing all of this, from the droughts in the desert Southwest to the record temperatures at the Antarctic on the opposite side of the planet. And let's take a look at the video and watch the event. Now, the size of this thing is very large. You're looking at about 250 to 300 foot, or 75 to 90 meters above the water, and about 700 to 900 feet below the water, 210 to 270 meters. What's happening is it's too warm and the bottoms are melting. A lot of times these big ones will just slowly melt as they move out of the bay there at Illicet. But this one did not have time to melt fully. The warmer waters below it, guys, came in, started melting it, and that made...
He's sped up the video footage here. That's why it's moving so fast.
It top heavy. Watch what happens. Again, this is a cam outside the Illicet Bay. We're looking west out of the Greenland Peninsula. Check this out. Now, you're going to see the water line there at the very edge of just above the surface of the water. That's going to start to move upward. And when you do see that, guys, you're going to start to see very blue ice. That blue ice is ancient. It's been there so long that the compression of the white ice on the top has pushed all the air bubbles out of it, leaving it that blue. But you're going to start to see cracks. Now, what's happening is a lot of this was supported by floating in the water, but now that it's not, gravity is taking over. Check this out, guys. This thing's going to change quickly. They were watching it move, then it slowed down. I'm not sure if it caught something else, but quickly started to rotate. And what you're going to see is like a boat that's launched sideways, one of the big ships. It sits there and rocks back and forth for a while. Look at this. But this is an ice continent melting away. In the bottom, warmer waters, we were looking at them much warmer than it should have been, was eating at the bottom, allowing it to flip over. Look at this. We'll play it through. But again, your blue ice line there has been underwater for a very long time, under high compression. You're going to start to see cracks form throughout this region. Here, check this out. Watch this area, guys, and all through it. It just, again, gravity takes over. Look at this. It almost looks like AI, but it's not. You'll start to see as some of the heavier sections collapse, guys, how the water changes and eventually will start to splash over this rock outlet here at Illicit Bay. Look at that. And look at the coloration at the top. That's some type of dust. Either it would be volcanic ash or forest fire smoke. And they found that before by drilling through ice cores. Looks like a dinosaur back rolling over, doesn't it? Look at the eruption here. They were concerned that this could give the village there some problems, but so far nothing's been reported. No one was harmed. No boats were harmed. And that's, again, that's the latest reports that I can find out about it. But as it rolls back over, again, notice this top. And there's hundreds and hundreds of birds flying around. I don't know if they were displaced from the top or they're just flying from the shore. It's hard to tell.
All right, I want to skip ahead just a little bit here because you can see that it starts breaking apart even further.
Or the side of a mountain, it would raise it. But it's the same principle as putting ice cubes in a glass of water. They can melt, but the water doesn't rise. Why? Because the weight is already accounted for in the ocean height. It's just balancing out. But look at this as it rolls, guys, back and forth. And it's amazing to see that much energy. I actually expected larger waves, but again, this is where it gets interesting. Right at this part, the entire shelf starts to break off and the glacier starts to split in half. Notice that section there? Watch this. It's going to break here. The weight is too tremendous. Look at this.
There it goes.
Like a ship going down. This is the very bottom sections of it. It's been there forever. Wow. Amazing, isn't it? But I wanted to show you this, and this is from Afar TV. It's a webcam set there to watch these type of things. But this is a perfect illustration, and this is just a couple of days old, of what is happening to our planet. Unbelievable. Look at that. And look at the ash at the top. And you can see the dust forming all through here like a haze or like a smog.
So this is what happens with runaway heating. Runaway heating on the planet. So anyway, I wanted to show you guys that, and then for a different angle, let me switch over to this one. This one, I sent that to Mr. Dane, figuring he had already seen it, and he had. But in return, he sent me this one. And this is actually the same iceberg from a different angle. Video captured by an eyewitness showed the dramatic moment an iceberg being rolled over off the coast of Greenland near Ilulissat. So it's the same thing here. But you can hear it in this one. But you can see how close it was to the little town here. Massive iceberg seen turning over and breaking up. Anyway, I wanted you guys to see that. I thought that was pretty darn incredible. So yeah, again, these videos we'll link to in the Substack post if you want to share them around. But this is what happens when you have a warming planet, and this is the exact type of thing that Dane's been talking about really for decades at this point, for a really, really long time. And we aren't being told about what's going on here. It's just happening. And it's worldwide. The Earth is heating up incredibly, incredibly fast. All right. Well, anyway, just want to share that with you guys. Let's take a look at a few more articles. I have quite a bit tonight. I think I've over-prepared yet again tonight. So we'll see how much we can get through. I thought this one was kind of interesting just because we're talking about Earth and, in this case, what you really don't want to do. But it appears, it says 5 states make the cut for $50 billion nuclear campuses. So this is, I think, what we don't want to do is build more nuclear anything. U.S. Department of Energy has selected Utah, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Idaho as the first 5 potential hosts for nuclear life cycle innovation campuses. And then, of course, it has an acronym, NLICS. NLICS, I guess. Nuclear Life Cycle Innovation Campuses. If you put the word campuses in there, it sounds like everybody's getting educated and you know, there's nothing bad happening. It's totally innocent. You're just learning about nuclear stuff. No, that's not what's going on. Advancing an effort that forced states to decide whether they support the entire nuclear industry or merely the convenient parts. Strengthening and modernizing America's full nuclear fuel cycle. Utah, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Idaho. Well, let's see here. Red state, red state, red state, red state, red state. I think that's an accident. Energy Secretary Chris Wright signed memorandums of understanding. So now we have MOUSEs again, except this one's with 5 states. After the Department of Energy reviewed 28 applications from 26 states, the agreements allow the federal government and the states to continue exploring potential campuses. The potential prize, I put that in quotes, is substantial, with NLICSs potentially attracting up to $50 billion in capital investment. So that's the whole, the carrot and the stick thing here. $50 billion in capital investment, generating almost $10 billion in state and local tax revenue, creating 25,000 jobs. What they mean here is 25,000 state jobs each. These would not simply be reactor parks. The campuses are intended to accommodate multiple parts of the nuclear fuel cycle, including uranium enrichment, fuel fabrication, reprocessing or recycling of used nuclear fuel, and the final disposition of material that cannot be reused. Oh yeah, sign me up. Doesn't that sound fun? Depending on the state and location, the campus could also include advanced reactors, power generation, manufacturing facilities, and co-located data centers. So we need more data centers for the nuke plants. The DOE is offering states the opportunity to build entire nuclear industrial ecosystems rather than collecting federal reactor grants while expecting somebody else to deal with the fuel afterward. That distinction may explain why some supposedly pro-nuclear states are conspicuously absent from the first short list. Texas has spent years presenting itself as the future capital of advanced nuclear power. In 2025, the state established the Texas Advanced Nuclear Energy Office and appropriated $350 million for reactor development, construction, reimbursement, and supply chain projects. State officials called it the largest state investment of its kind in the country. Yet, when Orano USA and waste control specialists proposed a consolidated interim storage facility for used nuclear fuel in Andrews County, the state's enthusiasm for nuclear technology suddenly became rather selective. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas urged the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to reject it, calling the location unsuitable and warning that the facility could threaten the Permian Basin. Texas legislators subsequently passed a law opposing high-level waste storage, and the state fought the NRC license all the way to the Supreme Court. Apparently, nuclear reactors are an economic development opportunity, while the fuel that actually ran through them is somebody else's problem. And then talks about New Mexico produced an even clearer example. So they're talking about a few other states where it didn't quite work out. Anyway, I don't think that's a great idea. I'll just say it that way. I don't think it's a great idea. Let's not have more nuclear plants, more nuclear facilities or campuses or whatever you want to call them that need more data centers and all of that stuff. How about no? That's a good answer. I like that one. Anyway, yeah, Utah, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Idaho. Watch out. They're trying to vie for, bringing in billions of dollars, which understandably, but doing something that is only going to make things worse. Can't possibly be good, in my opinion. All right. And this one I thought was one of those things where, well, of course it makes sense, and of course he will probably try it. U.S. Senate urges Trump not to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, why do you suppose they would need to do that? Do they know what's coming? Do they know what's coming? I mean, it seems like this kind of came out of nowhere. It says the U.S. Senate approved without objection a resolution on Wednesday, so just this last week, urging President Donald Trump not to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted sex trafficker linked to Jeffrey Epstein. According to lawmakers in a copy of the measure, the resolution introduced by Senator Jackie Rosen from Nevada, Democrat, states that Maxwell should not receive a pardon, commutation, or any other form of executive clemency. Interesting that they felt that they needed to do this, isn't it? The measure cannot bind the president, but it delivers a rare bipartisan warning as Maxwell seeks clemency and the Justice Department faces renewed scrutiny over its handling of Epstein's longtime associate. New American reported. Senate urges against clemency. Wow. Maxwell's conviction and sentence, Trump's position on the pardon. Trump has repeatedly declined to categorically rule out a pardon. Asked about the possibility last year, he said that he had the authority to issue one, but that nobody had approached him with a request. After the Supreme Court refused to hear Maxwell's appeal in October 2025, he said that he would consult the Justice Department, according to RT. In a video clip recorded in November last year, Trump said, "I haven't thought about it," when asked whether he would pardon Maxwell. Rep. Anna Paulina Luna said in April 2026 that the votes aren't there for a Maxwell pardon and that she was not getting one. So, I don't know. Could you imagine if Trump pardons Ghislaine Maxwell? Wow. I mean, not that we need any more information really necessarily on his connection to Epstein, but I think that would pretty much solidify it, wouldn't you? But I do think it's interesting that the Senate is putting something together to urge him to tell him not to do it, even though they can't really control it. They can't stop him if he wanted to. But man, what an ordeal that would be. All right, this one on Reason.com. We'll go ahead with the video that I have prepared here, bound report here in just a second on the flock cameras after this one. Kansas lawsuit, ALPRs turn a license plate into the functional equivalent of a GPS tracking device. The Kansas Justice Institute argues that Wichita's warrantless ALPR Dragnet surveillance program violates the state's constitution's privacy protections. By themselves, license plates, which debuted in the United States at the turn of the 20th century, are pretty low-tech. But when combined with the network of AI-assisted automatic license plate readers, ALPRs, those aluminum rectangles stamped with numbers and letters become tracking devices that can provide a comprehensive history of a driver's movements, potentially revealing sensitive information about his habits, health, relationships, political affiliations, and religious beliefs. Police departments across the country nevertheless deploy such systems and routinely search the information they collect without reasonable suspicion, probable cause, or warrant, or any sort of judicial supervision. Police in Wichita, Kansas, for instance, have access to data from about 200 flock safety ALPR cameras. They have to have the word safety in there. Otherwise, you might think they were up to no good. Which are deployed widely enough that it is nearly impossible for the average driver to avoid surveillance as he goes about his daily life. That program violates the Kansas Constitution's privacy protections, according to a lawsuit that the Kansas Justice Institute, KJI, filed this week in the Sedgwick County District Court. The plaintiff in Grimmett versus Wichita, local privacy activist Mason Grimmett, is a law-abiding citizen trapped in Wichita's warrantless ALPR Dragnet surveillance program. He's done absolutely nothing wrong, but he's still being tracked, monitored, and databased. That's unconstitutional. If Wichita wants to track its citizens, it needs to go to a judge and get a warrant. You would think so, wouldn't you? Not how it works, unfortunately. Information from Wichita's ALPR surveillance system, which includes photographs, locations, and many other details that can be inferred from them, is retained for at least 30 days, but can be stored indefinitely in some circumstances. Grimmett's complaint says the database, which offers both real-time and historical information, can be accessed by virtually every police officer in Wichita, plus hundreds of other law enforcement agencies. Yeah, and I would also add other countries as well, like Israel and so forth. They can all access it. In practice, police can search the database at will on computers or mobile phones, conducting sophisticated queries that specify vehicle characteristics, general travel maps, and route predictions, and may include convoy analysis, which documents vehicles that have been spotted in the vicinity of a target vehicle. The lawsuit notes that ALPR photos include bumper stickers and decals, which can alert police to a driver's political views. You suppose? Yeah. Anyway, it goes on and on, doesn't it? I wonder what will happen with this. You think this guy will win his lawsuit? My guess is, even though if he does, all they'll do is say, yeah, we'll take these cameras down and we'll put up Axums instead. Or Axon, or whatever it's called. We'll just switch them out for a different brand. So this is Mason Grimmett here. So good for him for trying to take them to court, and who knows where it ends up, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
Is flock safety eavesdropping on private citizens? In this case, this flock raven is literally under the eave of a private residence. How close? I'm now touching the sill of this house, standing next to the raven.
The community center said, okay, well, we're a little worried that there might be some sort of anti-Semitic attack, so we want to share our footage with police in case they need it, in case there's a shooting or something terrible happens. And by doing that, they shared it with Flock. All Flock employees, over 1,000 times, and they were all grown men. And they were looking at these cameras of the daycare center, the children's gymnastics room, and their defense to this was that it was a product demo for another client. And I'm thinking to myself, if I had a business and I wanted a Flock camera, if I had a police department and somebody pulled up a laptop and said, look how good this works, and then it was a children's gymnastics room, I would call the police, or hit them. I'm not sure what I would do, but that's an outrageous explanation. That's just delusional.
How many Flock employees were fired after that?
None, not one.
If they're going to track us, that's against our constitutional rights. You know, I have the right to move about this country free without somebody looking over my shoulder constantly.
Flock Safety's solar-powered license plate readers have blanketed America like a digital dragnet, scanning tens of billions of plates a month, feeding hot lists to cops and private HOAs, and turning every street corner into a permanent checkpoint. The backlash is real. Dozens of cities have ditched the contracts after privacy scandals.
For many, flock cameras are supposed to make communities safer. But after 3 officers allegedly abused the system for personal reasons, some residents are questioning whether the technology has enough safeguards.
If they're able to use it for all these other reasons like tracking people, either they need a new company that has protections on the gear to where you can't do all that stuff, or there needs to be some checks and balances on it.
False alerts that put innocent drivers at gunpoint.
Get on the ground, do it now. You're gonna get bit. Fuck. Man, for real? I didn't even doing nothing, man. Hand your back. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's already asking for medical like a little petulant child. So it's not the plate. But it's not the stolen plate. No. Did it just miss-hit? I think it miss-hit. Why you make that noise? We'll talk later.
Hey, face away from me now! Right now, man, we got a hit on a car and a stolen vehicle. So you're about to cooperate with us?
I'll cooperate, but I promise you it's not stolen. You have any weapons on you? No. Turn around. I gotta put you in these for right now, okay?
I've got a baby in the car.
So we have a flock camera system that's around East Tennessee. We got a hit from that flock camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look for L0 DUI, not LO.
Unauthorized federal data grabs, and that creeping sense that your every commute is being logged for the permanent record.
Well, guys, Flock just got wings. Those street-side cameras that are already all across America. What if I told you they're not stopping there? The same company behind the cameras are now putting autonomous surveillance drones in the sky. And depending on who you ask, it's either the future of public safety or the more likely option, the biggest expansion of government surveillance we've seen yet. Now the company's automated license plate readers have spread across the country, creating one of the nation's largest interconnected video surveillance networks. After partnering with aviation software company Aerodome, Flock launched Flock Alpha, an autonomous police drone built to respond to emergencies before officers even arrive. The drone sits inside a waterproof docking station waiting for a call, and when a 911 report comes in, the drone can launch automatically and fly up to 60 miles per hour. Officers don't even have to be standing nearby. They can deploy it directly from one of these little things, a smartphone. And this thing isn't just flying overhead, it's got thermal imaging, high-definition cameras, and powerful optical zoom. And well, according to Flock, it can even read a vehicle's license plate from 2,000 feet away. That's not terrifying at all.
But instead of the surveillance layer being torn down, it's being rebranded. Axon, the taser and body cam giant, has stormed into the gap with its own pole-mounted and streetlight retrofit ALPR systems, the same hardware partners Flock used.
Guess who else owns Axon? That's right. According to financial disclosures, the president purchased between $1 and $5 million of Axon stock. Guess when? February of 2026, right? Because Trump's making money off of them. The president and BlackRock and Vanguard. What the hell with our Fourth Amendment?
Genetec, AutoView, and the rest of the pack are swooping in for the municipal contracts, often with the same core mission: photograph every vehicle, store the movement data, and hand it over when the system decides that you're interesting.
I want to be clear what these cameras actually are, and I say that with somebody with 20 years of experience in IT. I've served as the chief network architect for Fortune 500 companies. I've designed data centers, and today I work on cloud infrastructure for one of the largest loan origination companies in the country. I'm not speculating on how this technology works. I've read their patents, and I know how it works. Flock advertises these cameras as simple license plate readers. Their own patents tell a different story. They're AI-powered surveillance machines that capture every passing vehicle and person and transmit that data to a private corporate cloud, making it queryable by a multitude of state and federal agencies. Now consider who's behind the company and where your data flows. Flock integrates directly with Palantir, a data fusion platform with a $30 million contract with ICE. Peter Thiel, the founder of Palantir, is also one of Flock's primary investors. These are not separate companies. with separate agendas. They're connected actors that are building a connected infrastructure. Palantir's own CEO stated publicly just this month that his technology is being used as a political instrument designed to reduce the political power of certain voters. And that's the ecosystem that our cameras are feeding into.
Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain.
Nova is an accessory that goes onto the flock cameras, but it tracks you as a person. It turns your license plate into everything about you. So you're driving along and the flock camera that has this Nova apparatus on it, well, all of a sudden, it's like not only does this car and this license plate belong to this person, but this person is married to this person and has these kids and lives in this place, and here's their phone number. Everything about you, your pattern of life, everything. An investigation just like a year or two ago found that Nova didn't just pull from open source or legal data sets. It pulled from the dark web as well, which includes your social security number, your bank information, your email that was leaked, your password that was leaked. So now they have all of that and can do whatever they want, technically.
This isn't competition that liberates you. It's a shell game where the players swap logos while the cameras keep rolling, the national databases keep growing, and ordinary Americans keep getting treated like suspects in a never-ending Fourth Amendment violation. John Bound reporting for the Alex Jones Network at alexjoneslive.com.
Yeah, how about that? I thought that was a really good report, and according to what Miss Susan's saying there, on many lists for many years, no doubt, no apologies and no worries, I'm not of this world. Yeah, exactly. And she says, I've flipped off more flock cameras than I can count on one hand, which is what that guy was doing in that last picture that we were watching there, that video. Pretty funny. So way to go, Miss Susan. Good job. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that. I thought that was a pretty good video and seemed to cover quite a bit of ground. And yeah, it's the beast system build out, isn't it? Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. Sure seems like what we're seeing, in my opinion anyway. All right, let's keep moving here. We've got a few more articles to go tonight yet, so we will get through everything that we can. I've never heard of this before. A discarded SpaceX rocket is on a high-speed collision course with the moon. But I guess because it's unmanned, it doesn't matter if it goes through the radiation belts. It's fine. The rocket's upper stage will unintentionally slam into the moon on Wednesday. You guys know about this? A drifting SpaceX rocket is on a collision course with the moon after launching a pair of lunar landers more than a year ago. The rocket's upper stage will unintentionally slam into the moon on Wednesday, carving out a crater and sending up a plume of dust and rubble that scientists and skygazers are eager to observe. It is the moon we're talking about, so yeah. Space tracking expert Bill Gray predicts an impact of 5,400 miles per hour, 7 times the speed of sound, near Einstein Crater on the moon's sunlit western limb. So not on the dark side of the moon. So I was a little worried there, because if we do that, they can't show that part. With the action unfolding in the wee hours, the eastern portions of the United States and Canada and much of South America should have the best views. While scientists are not too concerned about this particular piece of space junk, it highlights the growing threat as more and more items cram into orbit. Yeah, like satellites that Elon Musk is putting up with said rockets. Things are getting crowded up there, said Gray, who plans to view the aftermath from New Brunswick, Canada. It was never SpaceX's intent to hit the moon, but space experts said the crash could have been avoided if the upper stage had been nudged into orbit around the sun. It will be the second dead rocket known to crash into the moon accidentally. A Chinese rocket segment dug out a pair of craters in the lunar far side in 2022. Wow. Lucky for astronomers, the upcoming smash-up will occur on the moon's near side, packing the equivalent energy of 3 tons of TNT. The impact flash, lasting less than a second, will probably be too dim to see, according to experts, but the stream of ejected material could stretch for several miles into space and remain visible to telescopes for tens of minutes. The gravity on the moon is low, and there's no wind to blow the dust away, said Los Alamos National Laboratory's Benjamin Fernando, who's encouraging observations by professionals and amateurs alike. Part of the reason for our interest in this event is to figure out how much of a hazard debris impacts pose to future astronauts. Yeah, I would think getting hit on the head with a rocket that's dead might not be the best thing you'd want if you were living on the moon. Fernando anticipates an impact crater nearly 90 feet across and 16 feet deep. Too small to see from Earth, but visible to spacecraft. NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and South Korea's Danuri Lunar Orbiter will gather before and after shots of the crash scene. Danuri will stray within a mile or two of the SpaceX rocket just 2 minutes before impact, according to Fernando and his team. The abandoned rocket segment, measuring some 40 feet and weighing around 10,000 pounds, hoisted 2 private lunar landers on January 15th, 2025. So it's taken a year and a half for this thing to get to the moon. A year and a half. Well, anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure about this, but I guess we'll see something about it. With the moon as the new travel hotspot, scientists said it's crucial to improve debris monitoring and traffic control before packs of robots and astronauts arrive there. Yeah, we wouldn't want that to hamper the moon trips. All the moon trips that are going to happen that have never happened thus far. Anyway, pretty wild. So yeah, Elon Musk's litter is making its way to the moon finally after a year and a half. So that is pretty strange. I must say, I wasn't expecting to see that article. All right, here is a Daily Signal article. It has destroyed our lives. Christian parents sue over accusation they caused mental injury for refusing to affirm daughter's transgender identity. Yep. Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. Here's the clearly criminal couple right here. David and Nicole Calloway. Christian mom and her husband are fighting back in court after Oregon's Department of Human Services determined that they caused mental injury to their daughter by refusing to affirm her transgender identity. It has destroyed our lives, Nicole Calloway, the mother of 2 daughters, who are now estranged because they both claim a transgender identity. Both daughters. Coincidence or programming? Child Protective Services, CPS, took custody of her then 15-year-old daughter, named K.A., at least for the purposes of this story. Took custody of the 15-year-old daughter at that time on July 18, 2024, one day after Calloway and K.A. terminated the services of K.A.'s therapist. According to court documents, Forrester filed the complaint that resulted in K.A.'s removal. Forrester was the therapist. ODHS notified the Callaways that the agency considered them responsible for the mental injury of K.A. Your adverse reactions to K.A. expressing their gender identity have caused serious harm to K.A.'s psychological functioning. They wrote in a September 13 letter. Calloway's older daughter has already moved out. I was so distraught I felt like I was gutted, the mother said. Both my daughters were gone. I took myself to the hospital and admitted myself for a week because I couldn't handle it. The mother remains estranged from her daughters, and Oregon has ordered her not to contact K.A. Yet the state's findings haven't just affected her maternal relationship. a black mark on the parents' records. The mental injury, quote unquote, finding constitutes a child abuse ruling on Calloway's permanent record and on the record of her husband, David. The stigma of a state agency finding the two guilty of child abuse has followed them across state lines after their move to Florida in July 2025. So they tried to get away. They tried to escape to Florida. In Oregon, if they were to do a background check, I could have lost my notary license. I still cannot even here volunteer with the church, anything to do with children, the mother told this website. The stigma may have been even worse for her husband. Months after the two moved to Florida, the Oregon Department of Human Services determined that David Calloway had exhibited a pattern of inappropriate grooming behaviors, to include making inappropriate sexual comments while K.A. was in his care. The husband vehemently contested the claim, saying he's innocent and was not given an opportunity to appeal. That sounds about right. While the office made the determination in December 2025, he did not receive notification of it until May 12th. May 12th. The husband told the Daily Signal, this website, that his employment is yet to be affected by the matter, but he highlighted this message from the notice. Quote, this abuse finding could have an impact on David Calloway's ability to volunteer or to obtain or retain a professional license or certain types of employment, end quote. So they're going to try and do away with this guy's job. Sounds like. So it just proves it is an absolute religion to these people. And they will ruin you if you go against them. They will make it so you can't even earn a living. And take your kids away, too, on top of it. So I just wanted to show you guys that article. And I know you guys know about this stuff, but that is so dark. So dark. And poor family that has to endure this. And it sounds like it's already broken them up. In large part, anyway. So not good. Not good at all. So keep those folks in your prayers. Definitely. What a mess. We've got a couple of Wine Press, I guess we have 3 Wine Press Substack articles tonight. BlackRock's Larry the Fink says AI data centers are going to be the next revolution in finance. As Trump says, you can't fight against data centers. That's right. You have to love them. You have to allow them to be put in your backyards. You get no choice. You get no say. It's very important because you have to convince your community how great these things are. You can't fight it. You have to go with it, Trump said. The American public-private technocracy is determined to finance and force AI into everything and upon everyone. BlackRock CEO Larry the Fink has been a leading voice and major financier for this frontier. In a recent interview with CNBC, Fink reiterated that the next financial revolution in the U.S. will circulate around financing AI data centers and other related data infrastructure. This is going to be the next revolution in finance, he says. Yeah, because he says so. And I promise you, these are going to be great investments for individuals if so-called hyperscalers in states can meet the power demands while also being able to keep prices relatively lower for Americans versus other competitors, Fink argued. Fink acknowledged the disruptive nature of the rollout, claiming that I worry about the small and medium businesses, end quote. He worries about them, but he's okay when they disappear. He didn't tell you that part, but I'm just adding that. What Fink failed to mention is where this funding is coming from entirely. Besides investments from BlackRock, Fink revealed at a press event in Texas with Texas Governor Greg Abbott in May that the trillions of dollars needed to fund the data center rollout will come from private savings, pensions, and retirement accounts, meaning you guys are paying for them, urging Americans to not put money into a savings account at a bank, but to invest in the public good and grow the country. Yeah, it's up to you. And if you don't agree, we're taking your money anyway. Anyway, that one is one of the Wine Press Substack articles. I've got a video I wanted to play. I should play it now, but we'll come back to it. It's the Data Center Zilla, likening the data centers to Godzilla. Money faileth, a repeat of biblical history forecasting the collapse of world economies, forcing societies into deeper enslavement. As the world's financial systems melt down by design, what are we to do? Says, it has been well said that the only thing we learn from history is that we don't learn anything from history. And in the words of famed author Mark Twain, history does not repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Indeed, or scripturally speaking, Solomon recorded Ecclesiastes 1:9, the thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any resemblance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. So that's Ecclesiastes 1:9. While the vehicles and operation of things may change at its core, the echoes reverberate through time, hardly few ever notice it, let alone learn from it. Last couple of months, we've examined some very pertinent and deep spiritual wisdom that takes most people their entire lives to learn, if at all, particularly sought out by King Solomon and preserved by the Holy Spirit for us to learn from today, such as a study into the many vanities of this life and the endless, unfulfilling labor for them. And a general fundamental of the world is that time and chance happeneth to them all, among others. Moreover, we recently examined in great detail this New World Order monetary system called tokenization, where the central banks and other powerful actors are striving to essentially turn everything into a deteriorative asset on a blockchain, where everything and everyone will be turned into a unique digital asset that can be owned, stored, and traded. I ended that essay by saying I had more to say on the subject and how the world is being pushed into this system. This is that report. So again, this is from the author from the Wine Press, talking about the dollar's worth, purchasing power of the U.S. dollar from 1913 to now. Wow. What $1 buys. In 1913, $1 buys 30 Hershey's chocolate bars. $1. In 1929, it bought 10 rolls of toilet paper. In 1933, $1 bought 10 bottles of beer. In 1944, $1 bought 20 bottles of Coca-Cola. In 1953, it bought 10 bags of pretzels. In 1964, $1 bought a drive-in movie ticket. In 1971, it bought 17 oranges. $1 did. In 1987, $1 bought 2 boxes of crayons. In 1997, $1 bought 4 grapefruits. In 2008, it would buy 2 lemons. In 2020, so not even to today's date, in 2020, $1 would buy 1 McDonald's coffee. I don't think you can get that now, 6 years later, for $1. I don't know how much it is at McDonald's, but probably well over $1. Maybe $2 by now. I don't know. Anyway, so he goes on here and talks about the tokenization and then uses scripture to back up what he's saying here. I think this is probably a pretty good read if you guys are interested in this one. It's a Wine Press Substack post. And then here's the third one from this same site. AI companies are buying hordes of antique books and then destroying them after extracting their contents. Fahrenheit 451 is playing out in real time. Yeah, they're not really burning them, but they are getting rid of them. We're officially in a modern era of book burning and destruction of knowledge, brought to you by artificial intelligence companies. According to reports, big tech corporations have been on a book buying spree, old and antique books especially, scanning their contents and then disposing of them. by putting them through giant paper shredders and into the garbage. Previously, corporations such as Meta and Anthropic were guilty of pirating massive troves of digital ebooks to train their AI models with. Authors of those books have sued these companies, and Anthropic was forced to pay out $1.5 billion in penalty fees. Anthropic's deputy general counsel stated the ruling represents a landmark showing that training AI on books is fair use under copyright law, is what they say. We are pleased that more than 91% of authors and publishers covered by the settlement have claimed their share of the payment, and we're looking forward to bringing this matter to a close. And if that wasn't bad enough, these companies are doing the same and more with physical books. In 2025, ARS Technica, which is a website, arstechnica.com, reported that Anthropic destroyed millions of books in the process of training its LLM Claude. The tech outlet wrote at the time, in the process, the company cut millions of print books from their bindings, scanned them into digital files, and threw away the originals, solely for the purpose of training AI. Millions of books. While destructive scanning is common practice among some book digitizing operations, Anthropic's approach was somewhat unusual due to its documented massive scale. By contrast, the Google Books project largely used a patented non-destructive camera process to scan millions of books borrowed from libraries and later returned. For Anthropic, the faster speed and lower cost of the destructive process appears to have trumped any need for preserving the physical books themselves, hinting at the need for a cheap and easy solution in a highly competitive industry. Wow. So yes, they're literally book burning at this point. They're just tearing them apart, scanning them for all of their information, and then throwing them away. Anyway, there's quite a bit here on this, including some embedded videos as well. So on the Wine Press. And then here's one other article on this same subject. This is on Futurism. Futurism.com. AI companies are buying antique books, ingesting their contents to train models, and then destroying them at an incredible scale. The world's best AI training data is setting on a shelf. I think this is a very similar article. So we'll link to this in the Substack post. But yeah, it's a little more information here. I think the Wine Press article probably covers a little bit more in depth, but you can take a look at that one as well. Futurism. Okay, and then this one, changing the subject here. Have you seen this? Company designs devil-looking centaur-style robot. Centaur-style robot to help people in fire. Would you like for this thing to come rescue you if you were in a burning house? Man, look at that thing. They had to put a goat head on it. That makes sense. The company Satyres, S-A-T-Y-R-E-S-S, Satyres, has designed a centaur-style robot with the head of a goat. It is said that the Baphomet-looking machine will help people in fires. So, yeah, Baphomet will come rescue you if you're stuck in a fire. Lovely. Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. U.S. company Satyres is developing 3 halves, a centaur-style robot designed for dangerous environments such as wildfires, rubble searches, toxic areas, and confined spaces. The system combines a humanoid upper body with a quadruped mobility platform. In other words, 4 legs. Social media account Drone Wars said in a post that received over 11 million views since being posted on Tuesday. While the robot's arm appendages can receive a multitude of tools, images of it wielding a chainsaw have been the most popular on social media. Gee, I wonder why. Yeah, you have to give the robot a chainsaw. I mean, why wouldn't you? Goat, centaur, humanoid, wildfires, mudslides, rubble searches, toxic heat in confined spaces. A lot of this work still puts human bodies on the line when it probably shouldn't. In California, Satyrus is building a teleoperated centaur robot. Yeah, okay, so it's teleoperated at the moment. It's not AI run or AI driven at the moment. But you got to know that's coming next. It's not autonomous, but it will be, is what I'm saying. The company said the machine has vision through its horns. Oh, that makes sense. Here's the horns with the eyeballs inside of it. That's not creepy. No, not at all. Yeah, congratulations, you're being rescued. Please do not resist. That's exactly right. Here's the robot with the chainsaw. Yeah, I'd feel safe. I'd feel so safe if this trampled down my door, flames roaring around it to save me from a fire. Yeah, how's it going to save you? Are you supposed to get on its back or something? Wouldn't it be also like hundreds of degrees if it's just walked through a fire? You cannot convince me this thing won't be starting fires, this person said. Yeah, how it will be used. Here we go, right here. How it will be used. Quote, you've been found criticizing Israel online, and he's got the chainsaw breaking down the door. Yeah, that right there is exactly where it's going to be used, for sure. A robot, but we make it look as demonic as possible. Yeah. There's some great memes here. POV, you are being, quote, rescued from a forest fire. Yeah, by that thing. Look at the glowing eyes. Oh, yes, and then here's the unicorn version of it. Makes it look way better. There's a bunch here. There's a lot of really, really good memes. Ah, sweet, man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. Yeah, it's nice. I'm here to save you. It just goes on and on and on. First of all, yikes. Yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah. I mean, who doesn't want the creepy robot to come save you if you're in a fire? I mean, it makes perfect sense. I was looking to see if there's, here's one more page here about this. Company designs devil-looking centaur-style robot to help people in fire. It's amazing how openly satanic this is. If we have any respect for the delusion, we have to conclude it's set up for a fake savior, this person says. So here it is. 3 halves. Super humanoid general purpose robot. So, lovely, huh? Just what you wanted. Just in time for Christmas. Get one for the kids. I like how in this picture they have it with a knife and or a gun pointed at it. And I think what I heard, and I'm not sure on this, so don't quote me on it, but I think what I heard was if the armor gets pierced at all, it stops in its place. So I don't know how difficult that would be. But yeah, good morning, your payment has been declined. Yeah. I think it's much more likely to be this other meme. Let me go back to it. About Israel. That one, to me, makes the most sense. You've been found criticizing Israel online. I think that right there kind of sums it up. Anyway. Lovely, huh? So who doesn't want a devil-looking centaur running around saving people? Or doing something to people? Wow. Crazy. No Iran war off-ramp coming for Trump. Now, this is on Leo Hohmann's Substack. If it's even true that Trump is looking for an off-ramp, global power elites will make sure he doesn't find one. World War III and military draft incoming. Well said. Well said. Yeah, and that probably was the main reason for BB's trip to the United States recently. I'm guessing. In case you haven't noticed, the war in the Middle East is expanding. Just in the last few days, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Egypt have all been drawn into the conflict that started with just 3 parties, the U.S., Israel, and Iran. The new additions make this a truly regional war with global ramifications. Even Ukraine managed this week to get involved, striking an Iranian ship it said was sending military supplies to Russia. Yeah, we covered that last week. I don't know if you remember that. I was really surprised to see that. They basically hit a Iranian ship. Ukraine did. For those who needed an outward sign, this attack by Ukraine connects the Middle East war with Iran to the war against Russia in Eastern Europe. Yeah. And he says, as I've been saying for months, it's all part of the same war. Egyptian officials confirmed today that 2 ships on its Mediterranean coast came under a drone attack on Wednesday at the port of Damietta, a key loading point for liquefied natural gas, LNG. As of this writing, no nation or entity has claimed responsibility for the attack, a sure sign of a false flag or malevolent forces, while Western fingers are predictably being pointed at Iran. You can use your imagination as to who would like to expand the war in the direction of Egypt by looking at whose interest that serves. Yes. It seems to me like Israel's wanted to be at war with Egypt for quite some time. So far, this is following the exact trajectory I predicted when these wars started in Ukraine and the Middle East, because I saw them as part of the same major war, not separate conflicts. I knew they would continue to escalate, and anyone talking about memorandums of understanding, MOU, peace talks, and Trump looking for an off-ramp doesn't know what they're talking about and aren't worth listening to. Trump may want an off-ramp, but the powers driving these wars and financing them will make sure he isn't presented with one that his ego will let him take. That's a key point. Those financing the wars are the ones pulling the puppet strings. The politicians associated with the wars are mere frontmen. Donald Trump, by now, must be well aware that bombing alone is not going to take out the Iranian government. A ground invasion will be necessary. But he also knows that any landing of troops on Iranian soil will result in tremendous casualties for the invaders. Yeah, i.e. us, right? All this talk from various Iranian expats that gets regurgitated by conservative podcasters and writers that the Iranian regime is weak and ready to fall as soon as U.S. troops hit the ground is pure fantasy. Then they tell us Iran can install the clown prince Reza Pahlavi, the playboy son of the former Shah, to rule happily ever after in the interests of America and Israel. Pure poppycock. Do not listen to these people. Reza would not survive 1 week without a bloody civil war tearing apart Iran, if he could even govern without being assassinated. Trump himself knows this. But Trump doesn't want to land U.S. troops on Iranian soil if he can help it. At least not right before the midterm elections. He knows launching this phase of the war would result in high casualties in a very unpopular war, and that such a war would also likely require the U.S. to reinstate a military draft. This is where I differ. I differ slightly with Leo here. From what I can tell, at least publicly, Trump thinks this war is popular and people want it and like it. That's what he's being told. That's the information he's being shown. I don't think he knows it's an unpopular war. It is an unpopular war. But he's not being told that. He said even real recently, Trump has, that his approval ratings for this war are like sky high. People want this war. Of course, they're lying to him about that. So I would disagree with Leo about that particular point. Not that it matters that much, but I don't think that Trump knows it's an unpopular war, and I do think he would reinstate the military draft. I do think that's where it's going. Hence, where we started this show tonight. Going back to Leo, ideally, I believe Trump would like to find a willing proxy to invade Iran. The Kurds have been mentioned as one possibility, but Iran seems ready for that eventuality. Could Egypt be a better option? Egypt has a very large army, and we see that country being hit at its weak point, the Suez Canal zone, and connected ports and major trade route into the Mediterranean Sea. Anyway, that was kind of the I guess the bottom line mostly on this for the Leo Hohmann Substack post, but I do think he's right, though, that Trump's probably going to, whatever point, widen out this war and start a military draft. That does seem to be where it's headed. Whether he wants it or not, it doesn't matter, because we're going to get it either way. Coming soon to a big box store near you, digital programmable pricing, along with real-time continuous surveillance. We mentioned a version of this on the show recently, but it's been a while. It's been, a number of weeks. So let's see what this says. This is, again, Leo Hohmann Substack. Government and corporations are working together in public-private partnerships, the old PPP, to usher in Chinese-style social credit system. Starts out with gasoline prices. As I'm sure you've noticed, routinely change, sometimes in a matter of hours, given the instability of the oil supply, as arbitrarily judged by global futures markets. It's like every gas station gets a memo at the same time to raise their gas prices by the same amount. This is digital pricing as it relates to just-in-time inventory schemes. Yeah, I told you that my gas station just right down the road from where I am recently tore down their manual sign and put up a digital sign. And I said the reason is because the changing gas prices, they're changing them more than once a day sometimes. And they got tired of using the little, tool to reach up and change the numbers. So they can just punch it in on their computer terminal, and there it is. It just shows up. This is digital pricing as it relates to just-in-time inventory schemes. But what if digital pricing is invading all of our retail purchases, starting with the nation's two largest grocery store chains, Walmart and Kroger? Yeah, what I didn't mention is that particular gas station is a Kroger gas station. So there you go. Get ready, because it's exactly what's in the works. Walmart is now capable of setting the price of every one of its tens of thousands of store items to match the highest price a specific customer is willing and able to pay based on its data collection and the ability of its main in-store cameras to read customers' emotions. So figure that one out. Walmart, with the help of AI, knows whether or not a specific customer can afford to purchase any specific item in its store-wide system. It uses personal data on each customer culled from various sources and in-store cameras that continuously spy on every shopper. These cameras pick up your facial expressions, note whether you hesitate or pause before putting an item in your cart or back on the shelf. They note how well you are dressed, what kind of car you drive. Remember, it's got the LPRs, right? Read the cameras outside. Estimate your net worth, etc. This, combined with your past buying habits, allows Walmart to fix a price tailored specifically for your ability to pay. Yeah, it does seem wildly illegal. I'm sure it is probably, but who's going to stop them? Welcome to digital programmable pricing. It can change in a minute based on how you present yourself to Walmart's cameras. So there were always, those funny videos about people going into Walmart dressed all whacked out and stuff. Maybe they were onto something. Maybe the crazy people shopping at Walmart at 4 a.m. dressed in their pajamas and stuff. Maybe they weren't so dumb after all. This may seem eerily similar to the Chinese Communist Party's social credit scoring system, which has been in place for the past few years. Walmart and Kroger are preparing to bring this system to America by the end of the year. And many of their competitors are likely to follow suit after they see how well it works to boost profits. Walmart's commitment to programmable digital pricing is a striking example of the risk of public-private partnership involving AI and the betrayal of the federal government sharing data with corporations, which can then enforce government policy and prerogatives while parlaying the data into fatter profit margins. So we were watching that video earlier, and it said that it culled some of the database information from the dark web. Don't you suppose that'll be working here as well? It'll be pulling in your net worth, your balance in your bank accounts, your email address, your checking account numbers, your credit card numbers, anything and everything it can, your passwords, and now your facial expressions. the clothes you're wearing, all of this stuff. And then it will instantly mold a price based on all that information for you when you look at the price tag on a particular item in the store. If you have openly criticized the government's warp speed promotion of unregulated AI and data centers, protested the Iran war, or some other government policy, your social credit score may give big box retailers like Walmart reason to charge you higher prices than their more obedient customers. Get enough strikes against your account and you might be banned from buying anything at all in their stores. Who benefits from this rigged dystopian setup? Walmart shareholders will definitely like it. Technocrats who need inflation to justify the transformation of America from a constitutional republic to a technocracy will also cheer it on. Walmart already has cameras installed in the self-checkout aisles, which scan the facial features of every customer. They are also capable of identifying you by your cell phone each time you go through to check out. This explains why even people who pay in cash at Walmart sometimes get email communications from the company based on their buying habits. Similarly, the home improvement giant Lowe's recently announced it has installed thousands of flock cameras in the vicinity of its parking lots while installing facial recognition scanning systems inside its stores. Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. I think so, don't you? Were you aware that if you have any kind of online footprint, you likely already have a digital twin? And how that could be useful to the algorithm-based technocratic surveillance state? All this is set forth by Professor John Padfield in an interview with Nate Polson of the Canadian Prepper podcast right here. He also reveals a key role of AI data centers being built across America and gives practical steps on how to opt out of the beast system. Wow. Bottom line, everyone will have to make their own decision on how best to unplug from the system or whether to unplug at all. Is it time to boycott the big box retailers who see no problem in sneakily introducing their part of the beast system that will ensnare and enslave millions of people? Pray for discernment, never comply. Question everything. So again, really, really good article here on Leo Hohmann's Substack. Digital twins. You probably already have one. You just didn't know it. Isn't that insane? A patent for screen-based mind control. So this is a Substack I found. This one was linked to a cross-post from Weiswolf, which I looked at earlier today and found this article. This is on exo.substack.com. A patent for screen-based mind control. Research into subliminal image modulation of the human nervous system resurfaces. Cross-posted by Exo. Quote from their Weiswolf here. It says, how wonderfully depressing our world is. No kidding. This writer went and found the patents for screen-based mind control. They exist. Somebody filed them. Somebody at the patent office read them and went, yep, looks good. So that's why your kids stare at the phone 18 hours a day, and why you do, and why I do. Except mine is research, he says. A word doing more heavy lifting than any word should reasonably be asked to do. Yeah, research. That's true. Look up patent number 6506148. You didn't hear it from me. Read the post on X by Mr. Nobody, so I looked it up, and well. 2003 patent, nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields from monitors. Details how electromagnetic field can be pulsed through televisions, subliminally impacting the nervous system of a human subject positioned up to 11 feet away from the screen. The patent goes deep, exploring how to introduce the pulse at various stages of the media production and delivery process, and even providing the settings to do so subliminally. And down the rabbit hole we go. Yeah, so here's the little diagram from the patent, I guess. Computer, internet, remote computer, monitor, and all the connections there. Man from Laguna Beach. Patent 6506148 belongs to one Hendricius G. Loos, L-O-O-S, Loos. The assignee line simply reads individual. There's no company, university, or defense contractor listed, just a dude in Laguna Beach. If you go looking for him, the internet will tell you he isn't real. What's definitely real is the paper trail. Loos's 6506148 is the last in a string of patents that sailed through the U.S. PTO, so the Patent and Trademark Office, forming a continuum examining how pulses can affect the central nervous system. Patents 5782-874, and then it lists like 3 or 4 other ones here, focus on pulsed electric fields. And then there's 2 other patents listed here and linked. They're all linked. Yeah, it takes you to a website called Patent Images Storage. These other 2 patents focused on pulsed magnetic fields, including one that works by spinning a bar magnet. Suffice it to say, Loose was pulse maxing out. Laguna Beach, that's interesting. An origin plot. Loose opens the patent by citing a long-deceased MIT mathematics professor named Norbert Wiener. What a name. Wiener's work is foundational for what Loose was building. In 1958, Wiener published a collection of lectures titled Nonlinear Problems in Random Theory. Wiener had been recording electroencephalograms with the physiologist Walter Rosenblith. That would not be a... that is not an Italian name, let's just say that. It's probably not an Irish name either. Walter Rosenblith, studying the alpha rhythm, a 10 hertz electrical burst the brain produces when you're awake with your eyes shut. Under high resolution, the spectrum displayed in an anomalous shape, very narrow line, at 10 hertz, rising not from a smooth hump, but from a trench. This trench flanked the spike on both sides, looks like this. This is crazy. Anyway, it goes on here. I don't want to get too deep into this, but it does have all the patents listed. Everything's linked. And, man. So it's got a lot here about this particular guy's work. Loose, L-O-O-S. The hardware. The picture on your TV travels from somewhere. It could be a broadcast tower, a tape, a disc, a computer, or a camera. No matter where it came from, by the time it hits your screen, it's passed through a chain of hands. Loose's insight was that the brightness pulse can be introduced at any link in the chain. In his patent, he traced the chain from the screen backward. At every link in the chain, he stopped and worked out how you do it there. The place you choose to cut in determines 2 things: how many people get hit with the frequency and how permanent it is. Splice it into your VCR and you're mind-controlled exactly one living room. Pulse the lights and on a soundstage during filming, and every copy of the footage carries it forever. Wow. Loose's patent runs down the chain from closest to furthest from the viewer. Huh. The computer was Loose's preferred method, requires no hardware whatsoever. Visual Basic program fills the screen with a single flat color and nudges the red, green, and blue values up and down along a sine wave. The frequency and the strength are on sliders. The player for a VCR or DVD player. And then he talks about the broadcast and the recording and all this stuff. It's all in here. Isn't this crazy? This goes on quite a ways. So again, this is EXO on Substack. Patent for screen-based mind control. And you thought it didn't exist. All right. Let's do a little Doom break here. For all you Doom break lovers out there, you know who you are. I've got a couple. The Chosen Crew films newest season about Jesus Christ with camera equipment featuring F-Ice sticker. And by F, I don't mean fire truck. It's there's a few more letters missing there. Yeah. How does this keep happening? Filming The Chosen, Season 7, with an F-Ice sticker on their monitor rig. Here's a close-up of it right here. And then here's the monitor rig. Enhance. And then it's got a picture of it. Nothing like F-bombs directed against law enforcement on the set of a show about Jesus Christ. Am I right? The show's official account posted a video to tease their current filming of Season 7. Earlier this week, the show dropped a trailer for the release of Season 6, which depicts Christ's crucifixion. So here's the teaser. I've heard of this show, never seen it. It says the show has been hit by a number of controversies, both for its theological presentation and artistic liberties, as well as its ideological bents of its cast and crew. 3 years ago, someone pointed out pride flags spotted on equipment used to film the show about Jesus' life. There's a pride flag there and also on the back of this guy, on his harness. At the time, showrunner Dallas Jenkins defended the crew, saying he doesn't discriminate in who he hires as a contractor and he doesn't care about their politics or religion. Then there's a post here on X where he said all that. At a certain point, wouldn't you just stop posting the behind-the-scenes stuff if everyone on your cast and crew are left-wing activists making a show about Jesus? Imagine how comfortable a cameraman could be that he would slap that sticker on the equipment knowing no one will challenge him for it. That's a good point. Right here. So yeah, that's what you want. The people behind the scenes filming The Chosen, show about Jesus Christ, are all left-wing lunatic freaks. It sounds like. Or at least some of them are. Makes sense to me. I mean, why wouldn't you have it that way? Report. 40% of Americans have cut their produce consumption after the cyclospora outbreak. Uh-oh. Nobody's eating salads anymore. Let's face it, Americans aren't known for their healthy eating. Otherwise, RFK Jr. wouldn't be out there filming healthy cooking classes for us. So we don't really need a big excuse to cut our healthy food intake. And the recent Mexican lettuce cyclospora outbreak is a good reason as any. It's as good a reason as any. Cookie Monster approves here. No vegetables. CBS News poll showed that 40% of U.S. adults have cut their produce consumption thanks to the outbreak. It is dangerous after all, right? 47% of survey participants said they do not trust the FDA to deal with the cyclospora outbreak, while 40% say they have some faith in the agency. 13% of people said they have a lot of trust in the FDA's ability to get the outbreak under control. Those poor 13%. Basically, 40% of Americans said move over fresh fruit and veggies and bring on the ultra-processed food that will hospitalize you slowly over time instead of right away. As if we needed an excuse to ditch the salad, we prefer to get explosive diarrhea the old-fashioned way. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, that's another silly one from Not the Bee. And this one seems like more of a mea culpa, so let's see what this is. Wow, Stephen A. Smith backtracks after new Fauci revelations, apologizing for calling Kyrie Irving selfish. I remember when that happened, back when the vax mandates were going on. Revisiting the vaccine mandates. Some athletes that spoke up deserve an apology. The exceedingly rare COVID apology from a public figure who hyped up the jab. Stephen A. Smith, you guys may have heard of him, publicly apologizes to Kyrie Irving after calling him selfish and refusing the jab. Hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish, it made him brave. That was what he said. That was a quote from Stephen Smith. I watched Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill yesterday, and the person I thought most about was, I guess, Kyrie Irving. Irving stood out in my mind because of the heat that he was taking, and now folks were piling on because it was just the latest transgression in their eyes that he was committing and subjecting the public to. He refused the vaccine. New York City's mandate made him ineligible for home games, and he linked his stance to people losing jobs over vaccine mandates, which that's what it was. In my opinion, particularly hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. It made him brave for his willingness to stand up. In a tribal age where people are so married to their positions, an apology like this is like spotting a unicorn. You don't really hear that.
One size never fit all with this virus during this pandemic. But yet there were many people encouraging folks to do it anyway. Kyrie Irving wasn't one of them. In my opinion, particularly hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. It made him brave for his willingness to stand up and say, nah, I'm not doing that.
Wow. That was pretty amazing. So yeah, it is a bit like a unicorn, isn't it? So somebody out there calling it like it is. So good for him. Stephen A. Smith. All right. Oh, yes. We wanted to look at this. This is, there was a question last week about the Noah hides. So I've got a couple things to look at on this. This is a screenshot from Daily Crow, and we'll look at the website here in a second. The video highlights the first International Congress of Noahides scheduled for November 2nd through the 6th in Jerusalem, organized by the Brit Olam Noahide World Center. It aims to bring together delegates from 6 continents to formally establish a global Noahide movement. This includes creating and founding charter a rabbinic court to govern Noahide law worldwide, regional councils, and financial infrastructure. Noahide laws, the 7 laws of Noah, are presented as a universal ethical code from Jewish tradition for non-Jews. The event is framed as advancing this into a structured, global, religious, or moral system. The speaker expresses concern that this could represent steps toward a one-world religion, potentially impacting existing faiths, especially Christianity. Comments from viewers echo worries about implications for Christians, end times prophecy, and the loss of religious freedom. How about that? Well, here is the website they're talking about. And this is NoahideWorldCenter.org. So this is what they're talking about. You will stand where history begins anew. The first International Congress of Noahides, leading community figures, 6 continents, 1 founding. And many nations shall join themselves to Hashem in that day, and shall be my people. That's from Zechariah 2:15. This is that day. We invite you to be part of it. So is this the start of the one world religion? I mean, it could be some of the groundwork here being laid. I don't know. Why this? Why now? For 2,000 years, the prophet's words waited. We waited. This November in Jerusalem, the scattered communities of Noah meet for the first time, not to attend, but to found. A foundation, not a conference. You won't sit in an audience. You'll help set a cornerstone, meant to outlast everyone in the room. Jerusalem as spiritual center. The place the prophet's named, the address the verse gives. You come to the source, not a substitute for it. 6 continents, 1 mission. Communities that have only known each other by name will stand together in one room under one covenant. Human encounter. You're not alone. You will see it with your own eyes. Recognition, cross-pollination, continuity. What makes it a movement? What makes a movement? 5 pillars built to last. Positive identity, who a Noahide is, stated clearly and without apology. 2, structured membership, belonging with form and standing, not vague affiliation. Number 3, ritual and cycle, a year and a life given rhythm, markers, and meaning. Number 4, authority, guidance rooted in the sages of Israel, not improvised alone. Number 5, local and global, strong where you live, connected to the whole. So here are the working schedule here. 5 days that will define a generation, the 2nd through the 6th. Arrival and opening on the first day, workshops in ancient Jerusalem on the second day, Shiloh and Heritage on day 3, Biat Din Gala Dinner, and closing in the last couple days. So this is the Noahide World Center is what this website's called. Under the guidance of Rabbi Uri Shirky. Oh, only $1,950. You too can go. Of course, that's just getting you in the door, probably. All right. So that is the official website, Noahide World Center. Here's the other website that they mentioned in that first screenshot. Brit-Olam. You'll stand where history begins anew. First International Noahide Congress, community leaders from around the world. Reserve your seat. And many nations shall join themselves to Hashem in that day, and shall be my people. So it looks like a lot of the same information, maybe. Yeah, I think it is. Videos embedded as well. It appears to be mostly the same information, just laid out slightly different website, and there is more information on the schedule on this website. Now, all that to say, it made me think of this whole Noahide law saying, and can it be the one world religion? And I don't know, but it could be, I guess. So it made me think of what Ron Wyatt talked about many years ago when he was able to discover the Ark of the Covenant and hold in his hands on video for the world to see later on. Apparently the video was made, but no one can see it yet, where he's holding the stone tablets with the 10 Commandments written on them by the hand of God. And he said that the angels who were there told him that the Ark of the Covenant, the tablets, will be revealed to the world at the time of the Mark of the Beast and the National Sunday Laws. And you could interpret the National Sunday Laws as whatever the one world religion is. So based on all that, I found this video and probably don't have time to listen to the whole thing tonight. So this is from Michael Rood's channel, YouTube channel, A Rood Awakening, whom you guys know I've mentioned him multiple times, many times over the years. And this is a guy named Kevin Fisher, who I've also mentioned in some of the End Times Dates videos that I've made over the years, going back a while. Here's what this says. The title of this video is, Will You Be Forced to Keep Sunday? Prophecy of Revelation 13. Did you know that the Ark of the Covenant and the original tablets of the 10 Commandments could be revealed very soon? Now, this video was uploaded about a year ago. This video uncovers the astonishing testimony of Ron Wyatt, the hidden findings in Jerusalem, and how everything is connected to current global events, Sunday laws, papal encyclicals, climate lockdowns, which is something I've mentioned personally, and the literal fulfillment of Revelation 13. What role will the Vatican play in all this? Will Sunday observance become mandatory by law? Why will the 10 Commandments be the key in the final judgment? So those are just some of the questions asked here in the description box. This is a 23-minute video, and we will link to this in the Substack post. We don't have time to play it tonight. However, it is really, really good information, and he goes into what Ron Wyatt witnessed and what he talked about often and how it all ties together. And my question was really more along the lines of, could the Noahide laws become the one world religion? And I think that's still an open-ended question. I think I'm going to have to research that a little further. But it's certainly worth a look, and I guess it could be. it would just kind of depend on, how things unfold. The national Sunday laws would put the world government in charge of worshiping on Sundays. And that would make sense, being how it's the Sabbath that we're actually supposed to be worshiping on, which is Saturday. The Seventh-day Adventists got that part right. That is also the day, the Sabbath obviously is the day that the Jews worship. And note that the American Christians don't worship on that day, they worship on Sunday. So having the Noahide laws, or whatever the one world religion is, be celebrated and the worship happening on Sunday instead of Saturday would make sense, because the world system that is put in place would not want the day of worshiping God, to be on the Sabbath, would it? Makes sense to me. So anyway, that Kevin Fisher that we were just looking at, this is his website, and I've shown this in some of my End Times Dates videos, and we'll link to this as well in the Substack post. Again, just because of lack of time tonight, we're running out of time. But he met Ron Wyatt ages ago, and he has done a ton of work continuing the work of Ron Wyatt. So he's done some really, really neat stuff over the years, made a lot of really good videos, and done a lot here. And I've referenced some of the pages of this website in some of my End Times Dates videos. So really good information. I think it's on this Ark of the Covenant page, maybe. Yeah, this looks familiar. Where it gets into the sanctuary. So pretty interesting stuff. The question that I posed was, could the Noahide laws be the final end times religion? Could it be the one world religion? I don't know. I think the verdict's still out on that. I think it will be in play, because you have one of the main rules, of course, is if you are a blasphemer, what they call a blasphemer, which would be anybody who believes in Jesus Christ is the Son of God, you get your head chopped off. So that's what we have waiting for you. Anyway, that remains to be seen if that's where it goes, but it sure looks that way. And note that they will be meeting in November, starting to put the groundwork together for that. Not the head chopping necessarily day one, but that will be again the groundwork for the Noahide laws, of which that is part of it. So we didn't get to Revelation1823.net tonight. I'm gonna have to wrap it up just because it's getting late, but we will do that early in the show, the next show that we do, and perhaps we'll be able to squeeze one in a little bit early this coming week. As I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast tonight, just want to reiterate here, the Sunday show coming up a week from today, I won't be here. So I'll be helping move my daughter in over at college. So I will not be here to take part in that next week. So you are off the hook for August the 9th. We won't be doing a show. I'm going to try and squeeze in a live show on the evening of the 7th. So Friday night, the 7th. And what I'll do is, if you're on the Substack list, you'll get an email from me if I'm going to do the show. So we will do the show then, hopefully. If not, you won't get an email. So if you don't get an email, know that there's no show. But if you do get an email, it should state that we're doing a show, and it will be at the same time, which would be 9 p.m. on the 7th, Friday the 7th, 9 p.m. Central. So hopefully we will be able to pull that one off, but we'll see. My schedule's a little wacky sometimes, week by week, and we'll try and get to that, though, and we'll see how things play out. I've got a couple more articles, and then we'll call it a night tonight. But yeah, we'll save the Revelation1823.net reading that we have been doing. We'll save that for the next show, just because it does take a little while. I came across this one, too. We've been talking about all of the Jewish stuff tonight with regard to the Noahides, and I came across this one. Sanhedrin rules it will formally petition heaven to reveal the Mashiach and rebuild the temple. Isn't that crazy? That's the article from the 29th, so this is a really, really new article. Sanhedrin rules it will formally petition heaven to reveal the Mashiach and rebuild the temple. So get ready. I would say false flag incoming, wouldn't you? As far as the temple goes, at least. The nascent Sanhedrin issued a formal ruling this week asking the Holy One, blessed be He, to remove hostile forces from the Jewish people and the land of Israel, reveal the Mashiach, their Messiah, rebuild the Holy Temple, and restore prophecy to Israel. The written ruling dated 6 Menachem Av 5786 follows a session the court's members described as several hours long, during which 2 of the judges argued against moving forward before ultimately joining the majority. The Sanhedrin operates on the premise that a rabbinical court has the standing to issue a Psak, P-S-A-K, a binding halachic ruling, and that it matters concerning the fate of the Jewish people, a court above is bound to follow the ruling of a court below. Not every rabbinic authority accepts that the modern Sanhedrin carries this power. One member interviewed after the session acknowledged as much directly. Not everybody accepts that, but the fact is that they have made the rulings, which have had very serious ramifications around the world. So yes, they are officially going to be petitioning heaven to reveal Mashiach and rebuild the temple. So that is where we are. I still say we are in the end times. I know many of you guys think so as well. Second solution says the revealed kingship of heaven, Mashiach, and the temple. The second resolution asked for the revealed kingship of heaven, Mashiach, and the temple, the revealed and powerful kingship of the Holy One, blessed be He, in mercy and in joy upon every member of the Jewish people, upon every family, every community, every tribe, and the whole Jewish people, upon the righteous among the nations and the sons of Noach, and upon the entire world. He continues, the court asked that the Holy One, blessed be He, reveal our righteous Mashiach. And the court asked that the Holy One, blessed be He, remove and erase every obstacle so that we may build the Holy Temple. So I would say what? Incoming missile or explosion on Temple Mount pretty soon, and or an earthquake. Maybe they'll do both. But just know it will not be spontaneous. It will be long planned. So this is a pretty long article. There's a lot here. So anyway, again, we'll link to this in the Substack post. Make sure you're on the list. And then, real quick little finish here. GeoWatch for this week. Global Alert News, August the 1st, episode 573. It's called Weaponizing Meltdown, which we kind of more or less proved that a little bit earlier, at least to some degree, with the melting iceberg, the collapsing iceberg that we watched earlier. That was crazy, huh? Millions under heat alerts as life-threatening heat dome bakes the West with triple-digit temperatures. U.S. nearing Earth's hottest temperature ever recorded. Wow. Las Vegas airport in chaos as extreme heat forces pilots to leave passengers behind. That's a Yahoo News headline. Trump ally floats Republican pitch for sun-blocking technologies. And how are those sun-blocking technologies, solar radiation management, aka geoengineering, going so far after over 80 years? 80 years of deployment. Yeah, and then he gets into all of that in episode 573 from August 1st. Global Alert News, Geoengineering Watch Global Alert News is the name of that program. And then I was looking at the basically heat map. This is the upcoming temperature. It's pretty much red across the entire United States. Above normal, almost the entire United States. This is dates August 8th through 12th. So next week. But it's going to be hot. Pretty much everywhere. Even in Alaska. So anyways, okay. Well, I guess that's all for me tonight, you guys. I know we had to cut a couple things out, but that's okay. We'll try and cover those things on Friday night. I'll try and do a show Friday night. So again, we'll let you know for sure on that. You'll get an email if you're on the Substack post, or if you happen to catch it on a post on Facebook or YouTube, one of those places. I'll mention it on there as well. But I'll let you guys know. Certainly by early Friday, hopefully. I'd say by Friday noon I should know. So anyway, so this is the newest mechanism, at least, that I have. If you want to contribute to what I'm doing, this is Diamond Report on Buy Me a Coffee. So if you want to help what I'm doing, there's some options to do that. And then same way with Subscribestar, and I've mentioned Substack as well. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I did read through all the comments earlier, and looked like you guys were having some really good conversations, but I didn't really see anything that was directed necessarily at me. But I will go back and double check that. And if there is and I missed it, then we'll address it next week, because we're running long tonight yet again. So anyway, I hope you guys have a really blessed week this week, and hopefully we'll see you guys Friday night. If you can make it. If you can't make it, I totally understand. But we will go back to our Sunday schedule following this coming Sunday. So back on the 16th for sure, which would be the next normal Sunday. So we'll probably do the 7th, which is a Friday, skip the 9th, and then back on the 16th in regular weekly shows. So that's what the plan is, and hope to see you guys then. Love you guys, and we'll do it again as soon as possible. And let's watch the last video I mentioned earlier, actually, Data Center Zilla. Thought that was a pretty interesting one. Love you guys. Talk to you guys again real soon.
We need the United States economy to grow at over 2%. We need the U.S. economy to grow at 3%, especially with the growing deficits the federal government has. And so much of this money, not just the project, is going to be coming from the private sector, from savings accounts, from pension accounts, from insurance companies, on and on and on.
That's right. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink just urged everyday citizens to think about growing with the United States, framing the plunder of retirement nest eggs as some kind of patriotic duty. Fink didn't mince words about the scale of the heist. The U.S. economy must accelerate from a sluggish 2% growth to a robust 3% just to handle ballooning federal deficits, and that money is going to be coming from the private sector, savings accounts, from pension accounts, and insurance companies. He painted a picture of exploding demand for electrons powering these data behemoths.
But as the governor was talking about, the need for electrons is growing every day. If we're going to be the leader in technology, which we are, if we are going to be the leader in AI, which we presently are, it's just going to require trillions of dollars of investments. And if we don't invest in it, China will be the global leader in this.
Translation, your 401ks and IRAs aren't safe havens anymore. They're the piggy bank for BlackRock's vision of an AI-dominated future where trillions get redirected into projects that conveniently align with the asset manager's own massive holdings in data centers and energy infrastructure.
Residents were told today that actually we're not going to provide you electricity anymore. The Nevada-based power company that is providing electricity to the residents of Lake Tahoe informed them today that, sorry, all the electricity we make, every watt of power that we generate is going to have to go to a nearby data center, and therefore you have until the end of next year to find a new source of electricity, and after that, we can't help you.
Thanks to the data center overlords, 49,000 residents, mostly on the California side of Lake Tahoe, are about to lose access to 75% of their electricity supply after May of 2027. Liberty Utilities is killing off 75% of the energy provided by NV Energy because NV Energy says it needs every megawatt for its own unprecedented data center growth. A massive international American tourist mecca packed with ski resorts, casinos, and 28 million visitors is getting squeezed by Google, Apple, Microsoft, and BlackRock. This is why we can't have nice things. Data centers already guzzled 22% of Nevada's electricity in 2024 alone and are cranking up to hit 35% by 2030 and a staggering 5,900 megawatts of demand by 2033. That's 2.8 times the entire output of the Hoover Dam.
We don't need another data center. You don't know what the health impact is. You got them all crunched together. You're going to have a mass accident. You're going to ruin this community. You're going to ruin it. Ruin it if you let this continue.
Are you a member of a community where you've learned a data center is being proposed in your county? Have you decided to join your community in learning more about how this will impact farmland, the environment, your quality of life from the constant humming, noise, and light pollution? Are you concerned that your water may be drained by the data center or contaminated, as we're seeing across the country? Well, you just might be a terrorist of some sort. According to 1,000 pages of unpublished reports from the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and fusion centers, as reported by Wired.
The data center scam exposes the raw cynicism of the financial overlords at BlackRock, who manage trillions in ordinary Americans' hard-earned retirement funds while positioning themselves to profit handsomely from the very boom they're engineering at our expense. Fink's pitch isn't about national strength, it's a veiled demand to raid pensions for private gain, all while ordinary families foot the bill for skyrocketing energy costs, potential blackouts, and an unaccountable surveillance state powered by these AI fortresses designed to roll in the CBDC. This is how the Republic falls, one raided pension at a time. John Bound reporting for the Alex Jones Network.